and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Pork and Bean Show, starring two of the world's foremost ascended disasters, Pork Cunningham and the world's handsomest man, Frank Oliver Bean. Sit back, relax, and stay a while, and access the far recesses of your imagination, as far as the universe that you can imagine beyond. And let us introduce you to the world of the Sasquatch people and their message of love, their message of hope, and their message of connection. Hey everybody, this is Pork Cunningham, and I'm here with without my honorable co-host, the world's handsomest man, Frank Oliver Beans. I suspect he's old, you say, so I suspect he's probably having a nap, but maybe he'll show up in a bit. But we've got Cindy Carter here today. Hi, Cindy. How are you?
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing great, Brian. How about you?
I'm doing good, and just so everybody knows, I'm going to be talking really slow because it seems like we have some kind of delay here. So
a little bit of a delay.
Yeah.
So we're having to slow our speech patterns down.
That'd be good to learn how to relax.
That's hard.
And chill, right? So what's been going on with you lately? I haven't talked to you in quite a while.
Yeah, I haven't talked to anybody in quite a while. I've been in kind of a real reclusive mode. I do that quite often, and I've moved into a new place, and I'm up in the mountains of North Carolina, and I found myself, walking in the woods and gardening and painting and dealing with a few clients I have, but I'm really not into information overload right now. I'm not into information, so I've just been doing what I can do to assist other people and assist people I know close by and my family. And I think that's what we all should be doing, right? Is kind of assisting everyone we can, but in a kind of a localized way. So you enhance your local environment, And so I haven't been too involved in too many things in the Sasquatch community. I know that there's a lot going on. People share a lot of stuff with me. So I'd see little excerpts here and there. So I kind of catch up in a Cliff Notes fashion. about what's going on, but I can kind of tap in, to the collective of what's happening and kind of feel that. But I'm having a good time right now, even though there's a lot of strife and a lot of suffering going on. I feel like I'm in an observer mode. You and I were talking about that before the show, that that we're kind of both witnessing the idea that we are in observer mode a lot of times, and that allows us to witness at a like higher level for ourselves what actually is happening in front of us, what's happening behind us, what's happening in the future of us. And it takes you out of the emotional issue of what you might be seeing, and lets you kind of not really rationalize, but kind of come into a more wholeness about what you're seeing. So, I'm talking about, even though I'm hanging out in the woods and gardening and painting, I am dealing with some, pretty heavy subjects. I've always dealt with heavy subjects. My client base used to be MK Ultra people, participants in MK Ultra, participants in mind control or in military operations with PTSD or something so traumatic, a lot of suicidal issues, people that are kind of have checked out and are ready to check out, leave Earth, and just trying to help those people see that there's a reason to live, and it's usually that there's a truth hidden inside them that they haven't, witnessed or been a part of. So that's still what I'm doing. So I'm kind of balancing both worlds, and that's what everybody has to do because we're in the funhouse part of the circus, right? So how about you, Brian? What have you been doing? I know you were in the woods yesterday.
Sorry,
No.
I was having problems. I was having the sound going on with the other feed. Yeah, it's been really active with me lately. Um, I've been getting a lot of direct communication through the gloves, like every day. Like not every day, but almost every time I go in there, I'm communicating with a specific guy, and he's um, Susan, my wife, and I recently got married, and they've been really connecting with me through gloves to celebrate the marriage, and then after we got married, they've been doing it, and it's just been really intense. And actually, they've supported us all the way through our journey, so it's kind of like it's a
Oh,
celebration for them too, right?
I remember seeing those glyphs and always commenting when I'd see them, and you'd always post them, as they were happening or just the day or two after. And this was right after you and Susan met, or right after you'd been out with them, and it was just almost like, ha ha, see, we know your future, ha ha, see, we know your future. And that's what amazes me more, um, is that they know our future, and so they can play with us. And even though we have free will to change our minds, there's a probable future
Yeah,
that can be seen. It's not going to
right.
make it concrete, but I love watching those, Brian.
They have absolutely proven to me that they know the future because I talked about this before. They will leave me a glyph like they left me 5 years ago with with a message in it that I didn't understand until like today, or looking at it again and say, oh wow, they already knew that I was going to have that meaning, right? Um, and it's just so obvious. Like, and the other thing with glyphs is, that I find it's a direct telepathic thing or an arrangement between you and them, what they mean.
Yeah.
Because I've done that 2 or 3 times when I said, well, this is what this stick means, or this is what this symbol means. And right away, because they're so in tune and it's, a continuing education, they will start communicating with me with that symbol, combining it with other ones. So I know that there's no question that that has been adapted. And then, like I said, I'll look back 5, 6 years later and I'll see that glyph, the same meaning intertwine with other ones, and I'll say, oh, okay, they knew I was going to know that, 5 years before because of the time thing, right? So, yeah.
Either that, or they can also play into, the minute you see one, you have an instant recognition of what it might be. Even if we were wrong, like say, oh my God, that means a car. If a Sasquatch saw us see something and we went, oh, that means a car, they would have enough sense to create that same thing as a car for you. Like,
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, I'll give you an example. Like the Y-stick one was very kind of neat, but I'll give you a real rudimentary one. The open triangle, about a few months, or about 3 months ago, I committed to, okay, well, no, it wasn't actually that long ago. A couple months ago at the tops. I committed to, okay, this is a little bud. This is the little juvenile. He's actually quite a big guy now. I connect with, and I said, this is your signature. And so I was talking to Susan on the phone, and I said, yeah, I'm going to commit to it. It's little bud's signature. And I said, so I'm going to head up to this other place right now. So I went up there and leaned up against, as soon as I pulled in, my headlights illuminated a great big open triangle leaning up against a post. And I just knew instantly, right? And then ever since then, just nonstop, he communicates with me with messages with that open triangle because it was arranged between us. So that's really how it works. I mean, with me anyway. I think anybody could do that if they want to have that kind of relationship with them. Well, maybe not anybody, but you know what I mean.
I mean, almost anybody. I mean, they were communicating with me that way after I met them. Mm-hmm. And I just found it comical. And I didn't really read into anything more than, the recognition or validation of it. So I didn't really go too far with that part because I felt like I had a communication in a different way. And it was just like by my car. But it was when they were finding stuff I had lost, and it was in my car, in my locked car. So it was like, okay. So I knew the glyphs were kind of bringing me to the attention that, hey, it was us, and they were always, for me, it was always triangles, because my eyes pick up in nature triangulation or fractal looking things. And so that's what my little personal glyph was, a triangle. And it was oftentimes pointing right to my car. Like she needs those easy version of Sasquatch, so we're going to give her an arrow.
Yeah, I'll give you an example too, like of that, the little bud signature. So I made a glyph. Sometimes I'll make a glyph and communicate with them, because then they'll change it. They'll change the message, like ongoing. Yeah. So I left a little house with Susan and I in it, 2 little sticks, and then I thought, wait a minute, I'm going to put Bud in the house too, because he's kind of connected in with us now. So I added another stick there. So the 3 of us, and it just, like that thought came to me like twice, it like that, just within a week, and I added Bud. And so it was no coincidence, thought placement, how that works. And then, so next time I went back there, the 3 sticks, he had his little open triangle right covering them, like we're all connected. Oh. It was like right over top. Oh, I'm getting an energy. It was right over top of them, connecting it, and it just meant that we're connected. And then he had his. Mm-hmm. There's a dual. Oh, for Pete's sake! Hang on a second. Only on the Pork and Bean Show. Hello. Hey, I'm doing a show on the internet right now, so anytime but now. Oh. Anytime but now would be good. Well, anytime but now in like 2 or 3 hours from now. Sometime. Okay. You can try me. Bye. No, just try calling. Listen, I'm on a show. I'm on a show. Okay? Yeah, bye. Geez, Statistics Canada, they want to know if I exist or...
Oh my gosh. That's kind of an interesting fact that you get a phone call from this country
Yeah,
of Canada.
right during the show too.
I wonder why.
Anyway, where were we? That was kind of spontaneous and cool. That's the first time. I never actually answered the call on the show. I've had calls, but I'm going to turn it off while I can. Where were we?
You were talking about Little Bud and his triangle.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just so touching and beautiful, like how he connected himself into us, and that the message was, like I'm. Oh yeah, and I said like the original meaning for the open triangle, because there can be dual meanings. It depends on how it is, right, and where it is. So the original meaning I had for it was the open triangle was a roof of protection, roof of protection, and his open triangle was connecting the three sticks in, meaning we were all connected and whatever. But he also had a roof of protection over it, like it means we're family, we're connected, and I'm watching out for you. And boy, am I ever getting that energy just blasting out of my head. And it looks like maybe our connection's a little better. We don't have or do we?
I don't know. Maybe.
You heard me though, right?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to say Carl Soup and a few people were on, and come on back and we'll get your questions in. Let me just see if there's any in there. See, this is where it's not very good when I'm the only one here. But see what's going on. So remember, so tell us about the first time. Did you want to tell us that story about? You probably told it so many times, or maybe you don't want to. Remember when you first got a hold of me and you were getting glyphs and stuff, and there was a story about a family that were having problems. Did you want to talk about that, or?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of people don't know how am I connected to Sasquatch, because I talk about a lot of different stuff with Sasquatch.
Sure.
But my original connection was in 2015. And it's a long drawn out story. So there's part one and part two on my YouTube channel, and all you really need to do is go on YouTube and search Sasquatch diplomacy, and you'll see part one and part two. But essentially what happened was I got called by friends who know that I do psychic intuitive work, and they asked me to come help this family that had been displaced off their property by Sasquatch. And I told them basically in the first phone call, I said, no, I don't know anything about a Sasquatch. And it's not me. And she goes, oh, no, we've been told it's you that are supposed to do this. And our guides said it's you. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. So several synchronicities happened to get me to this town up in the mountains of North Carolina. And it was like pure driven, multidimensional synchronicity. And you don't doubt that stuff when it's happening. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have a place to live and no job. And I was out of money. And I was having to make huge decisions for my life like that week. And that's when I got asked to go up there. So within 20 minutes of being in this town, I got a place to live and a job just offered to me. So I just went with it. And then I went to this property, and it was like a 50 acre farm. And it's a beautiful place that the people had left 2 years earlier. Now, my friends Mary and Evelyn, they have a website called skyships.cashiers.com. Cashiers is a town in North Carolina that has a lot of UFO activity and a lot of underground military base stuff around here. And we have a lot of other weirdness, in this Highlands Cashiers area. So I go onto the property, and there's caves on the left, and there's fields and stuff on the right, because they used to have horses, I guess, on that property. And as we're driving in, we're kind of real serious. And off to the right, Mary saw something move, and so she slammed on the brakes of her car. And this is another first for me. This is my meeting the dogman. So here I just open the car door, and I look out, and it was probably maybe 20 yards from me, 25 yards from me. And it was this large dog, black dog with very pointy ears and a pointy snout, backwards legs. And it was pure black, but had green, blazing green eyes. And it just turned and stared like at me, and it was see-through. So Mary and I were just standing there going, whoa. And it didn't take just a second for it to recognize us. And I had in my head the word gatekeeper, gatekeeper, gatekeeper. I knew this was the gatekeeper of this area. So here, this gatekeeper's there, and he turns around and bounds down this huge hill. And he was taking 20-foot, no, maybe 15-foot, 20-foot strides that was totally out of the norm of any animal I've seen. So I knew right then it was interdimensional. So we got real quiet when we got back in the car. And, Evelyn's in the back seat and Mary's in the front driving, and I'm in there. We were very quiet. So I'm just in my mind now, just talking to the area and explaining, that I'm here as a mediator. I've never met a Sasquatch, so I didn't know what I was up against. So I'm just talking nice, basically, in my head. So here I go up to this property, and we pass the first small house on the left, and we come up to the main house. And the main house is kind of an old, like, country house with big balusters on the front, and 2-story with a porch on the front and a porch on the side, overlooking the fields. And I pull up, and it was like a war zone because there were these big planks of wood with nails sticking up all over the ground. So when we opened the car door, we were having to shimmy around these planks of wood. I guess that was to scare away the Sasquatch. And then I look at the house, and I'm standing on the other side of the car looking across the car, and it's just chewed all to hell, just chewed up. The balusters were chewed. And I'm right now in my head immediately going, can a Sasquatch chew like that? I don't think so. It's in my head, I'm going, no way. What about the door? The front door was like chewed part way off. I'm thinking, can a Sasquatch chew that off? I don't know. And so I just immediately kind of moved down to where this incident had happened. So all they told me was the family left because they had jackhammered the dam that was holding the pond. And when they jackhammered the dam, the pond flooded an area underneath it that was a cave. And that cave flooded everything. And that night, all the Sasquatch came out and put big, wet, red, muddy handprints all over the windows, all over the cars. They got in the cars, in the boats. They were distressed. So the family left the house and went to the little house. Well, I don't know how much time it took for them to just leave the property, but it was very quick. They were scared. So I didn't know all that, all I knew was the family was scared because they had jackhammered the dam. That's all I knew. And then the Sasquatch were mad. So they didn't know what happened. So I go down to the dam. I'm walking down there, and this is my first introduction. So in my head, I'm just going into pure intention. I'm the mediator here. I'm just here to assist, the process of helping this family and helping you. Just allow me to assist. So I get down there, and my body starts shaking, and I'm starting to get angry, and I didn't know why. And it was because I was standing right on the edge of the pond, and I could feel the energy from the woods that are right there, probably 10 feet away from me. And the woods felt like it was a family, right? So I could identify the family immediately. It was a mother, father, 2 children, and a grandfather. And that energy moved into my head. Hey, Michael. Moved into my head really fast. And when it did, I was hit with like a book of information. And that book of information was the story of what had happened. And I was like, holy crap. Like, I was angry. I was sad. I was devastated for the Sasquatch. And I was angry at the humans. Like, that's where I was. And so this was welling up in me. And I said thank you to them. But what they did was they did something so that there would be validation from the humans, so the humans would understand that I knew what the real story was. And so the Sasquatch family asked me, what did she take of ours? And that was to be validation for, my information. And so I knew that they had busted into the home place. I could see the home place in my mind. The living room in the bedroom, like where they were living. And yes, it looked kind of like a Flintstones cartoon. It was like big boulder with some ferns or something, and maybe palm fronds in the corner, colorful in parts of it. So it was really like an elf village, inside there. It just felt great. And that was their home place. And then I felt the energy of the babies. And it there was, I think maybe a baby got hurt, is what I now think, that a baby got hurt from their action. So it flooded their home. The rocks and the water flooded this area where they were living, and the humans didn't know it. But the humans did go down there because they thought they had unearthed this awesome place, and they were taking all these artifacts, these rocks, hand carved rocks. And they were hand carved from maybe off planet, but on planet too. And some were not from here, some were from here. And they had taken living room full. So anyway, then they asked me, what did we give her? Find out what we gave her. So I was to ask her, what did you give them, the Sasquatch? What did the Sasquatch give you, is what I was supposed to ask. So I go back up to the house waiting on the humans to come. And the homeowners came in, and we sat on the back porch, and I was really still shaken and mad. And I just said, that was their home. You flooded their home, and you devastated their home. And that's all I could say. And because I said that over and over, and they were like, oh no. They had no idea really that they had done that. I don't know why, because they had a full recognition of the Sasquatch on their property for years. I mean, they sat there with the Sasquatch walking across the pastures every day with the babies. She knew of the 2 babies, and she knew of gray aliens that would basically babysit the babies. Every day they'd walk across the field at 9 and 5. And so she showed me pictures of that stuff and everything when I was sitting there with her. So then I asked her, what did you take of theirs? And she was like really upset that what she had taken was a whole living room full of rocks, and it was not her rocks. And that's not what the Sasquatch were upset about. They were upset that they had, their home place was harmed, and I think a baby was harmed. So she showed me the rocks in the living room, and then I asked her, what did the Sasquatch give you? And they had given her a gift back that was a I'm sorry gift. We're sorry that we had to wake you up this way. We're sorry that we, scared the hell out of you, that you left this property. But it was, almost a year and a half later that they sent this we're sorry gift back to this lady. But this family had still been gone for 2 years. So then she takes me into the house further, and my thought is, like, what would a Sasquatch want in a house? Like, if they were coming in here, wouldn't they want food? That's what I thought. And no, they didn't go to the kitchen at all. There was stuff sitting there that was too pristine that they could have taken or messed with, and they didn't. But they had gone to the little girl's room, and they had taken markers and crayons and started drawing all over the walls what was actually had happened there. So they drew the faces of themselves. They drew the land. They drew a pond and a big X and water going in it. And this family still didn't get it because they were so scared. Fear and adrenaline, they just couldn't figure the story out. And so they had, taken the little kid stuff, and the little Sasquatch had drawn low on the ground, these were probably 12-foot ceilings. And so those drawings were way up at the ceiling. I think I have 11-foot ceilings in this place I'm in, and they were way at the top of the ceilings at that other house. And so it was like amazing. They had played in the toilet. They were amazed by the toilet, but I'll say, and the toothbrush and the sink, like they had tore that all up, but everything else was intact. So, they took me downstairs and showed me those rocks, and I was going to show y'all. I haven't shown this rock to anybody. They asked me at the end, would you like a rock? And the lady showed me her hand. She, her hand was totally deformed from one of the rocks because it had radiation burns. inside her hand. She ended up in the ER. So she wouldn't
Wow.
touch one rock. And it's because it was off planet. It was an off planet rock with plenty of radiation. And so this is the rock I picked up out of the crowd. And it's it's got a lot of mica in it, but it's kind of a little bit of a sphere shape, absolutely flat on the bottom. And it has this portal looking shape. Well, I had gotten another one from a portal in Ireland. It looks exactly
Oh
the
my
same.
Lord.
So, I felt like and I didn't do anything. This room was filled with rocks. So all I did was just grab the first one was right there. It was this. So, I love that part. But
Yeah.
so anyway, that was my story. And so what I told them to do was to go to the land, repair the land. Don't be afraid of what happened because they're not going to harm you now. They wanted you to have the story. They were never going to harm you. They just wanted you to know what the heck happened to them because you scared the shit out of that family, Sasquatch family. And so I asked them to repair the pond area. I asked them to make a mound, like a certain area that would be their continued ceremony area, and kind of say to them, we're sorry. Well, this will never happen again, and we make amends and to give gifts back. And they did that, and all stuff stopped on the land. They never did move back there because they had made a home somewhere else. But the Sasquatch did find them in the new home, which was only maybe 4 miles on the same mountain ridge. And so the bodyguard that was so afraid and had all the guns and everything is now having like huge interaction with them like buddies in his backyard. So it's a great story of, the fear level of humans and the disregard of habitat and, what it is to forgive on a huge level for Sasquatch. They're fully forgiving the human for our actions. Can we forgive them for theirs?
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Beans.
Hey, hi, Cindy.
Hey, Michael. Nice
Hey,
to see
we
you.
got a dilemma. I've been threatening the Pork and Beans group for like constantly to ask questions. No one's asking any questions. So, what do I have to do? Threaten to pull the plug on the show if people don't contribute? What's the next step, Beans?
Ask questions. Why don't you just read some of the comments? That's something.
There's no comments. Like, hi, how you doing, guys?
What do you mean
Like,
there's
hey,
no
good to
comments?
see you. Like, that's not a comment.
Tara says, "Hi, Cindy. What do you know about the Sasquatch that live below Mount Shasta, and how many?" That's a good question. What are you complaining about there, Mr. Pork?
Well, it must have just come up.
Oh, I mentioned that in one of my last interviews about Shasta. And, I don't specifically know exactly how many might be there. But when I was there, I felt the migratory nature of several areas around there. And there are people there who can tell you where to go find them. But they're still, even in Shasta, people are a little bit hesitant to tell you. And there's a lot of woo. You got to dig through the people who are living their imagination and whether this is a real occurrence or are we speaking of psychosis.
What are the Sasquatch people doing with you right now? How are they? Are you still working with them? Like
me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you how it works with me. I have my mind, my consciousness in a lot of different places other than Sasquatch. So I'm not a Sasquatch researcher. I don't spend hours of my day proving that they're here or anything like that. So I just have a normal, just like they would be my neighbor. Do you see them every day? No. Do you talk to them every once in a while? Yeah. And so mine is more like I don't have my own personal Sasquatch. I sometimes have been a little like, man, should I be jealous of all these people who have their own personal Sasquatches in their backyard? I kind of like that idea. But I never was gifted that. I could make one up in my mind, I'm sure. I could give them a name and all that and but I can't do that. So here I am, and I get guidance in big picture ideas, which are collective consciousness ideas. So I don't get to play with my own like life pattern too much with it. It's kind of like the collective consciousness of Sasquatch are feeling this now. And it might be around something I've noticed or witnessed. And I will say, Sasquatch Nation, is this feeling, how is this feeling? And I'll get a feeling back, that, oh, yes, get kind of confirmation. And it usually is right along with what other people kind of might be saying. So it's like a group think, just like that the family communicated with me. It's the same thing, and that's how all spirit essence has communicated with me in like group consciousness idea. So, and I have a hard time going, well, who was it that spoke? I don't know. It's just like a big old voice filled with lots of different energy, and so the Sasquatch Nation sometimes can be a very playful communication. It can sometimes be, almost contradictive to what I might think. They're going to show me, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to prove it to you. It's like, shit, oh God, it's hard knocks sometimes, the collective consciousness, because my teachings are basically in compassion teachings. So the Sasquatch tend to bring information to me that is based in compassion. So this is where some of the hardest teachings have come to me. Here's a great story. There, about maybe 3 years ago, I was struggling with money like I usually do sometimes. And at this point, I was taking a part-time job as a inspector of vacation rental properties. So here I'm just, each day I would just look at my phone and drive the mountains and go to these houses, right, and inspect them. So one day I stopped at a thrift store just to go, in a thrift store for a minute before I went. And I go in and I see this lady see me from the back of the thrift store, and it's a Goodwill, so it's huge. She comes running at me like fast, and I'm like, who is this? Like, I don't even know. And I'm standing at the front door going, holy cow, I just walked in here, and I don't know too many people in the town of Asheville, but I know some. And this lady comes running up to me and she goes, I just saw your Sasquatch interview. And guess what just happened? And I go, what? She goes, I was over here looking at books, and this book fell out. And it was called The Legacy of Bigfoot. And it fell out on her, and then I walked in the door. So she handed me the book, and it was like a student reader for middle school. It was a primer or something like that. And so she said, here, I want you to have it. I'll buy it. So she went up and bought it and handed it to me. So I'm like, I knew right then. And I said, I know to be ready, right? So I get in my car and I'm like, wow, okay, this is like cool. I know this is way cool. So I get in the car and I'm driving up this really back road I've never been down. And I've come to this valley, and this huge sign is at the top of the crest of the hill. And it's a very narrow little area. And it says Panther Valley. And there's this huge Black Panther. Well, I know Black Panther is a portal guardian, an inner earth portal guardian. And so I knew I was entering a portal. Whether or not, it was just coincidence, it wasn't, because I had already had the Sasquatch telling me what was happening before. So here I move into the portal, and I was like, wow. I could feel the energy change, and the hair on the back of my neck goes up, and the goosebumps on my arms, and everywhere I could see where my car was, there were buffalo on different tiers of the land of the mountain, because it was real narrow, but there were buffalo everywhere my eye could see. And I was like, I felt like I had gone into like another world. I mean, I knew we had buffalo around here in Buffalo Farms, and every once in a while you'll see a beefalo or something, but this was pure buffalo. These things are huge. I was like driving, and I was like, wow. And I get real excited. And, the bliss state is what brings energy to you, and that's how I can match the energy of this council, is when I get in a heightened state, especially if they're trying to communicate with me. So I'm like, wow, this is so awesome. And I'm driving and I'm just in this giddy moment. And I look and here's the house that tells me get ready to turn right. And I turn right and it's this huge mansion of a home. It's 18 bedrooms and 10,000 square feet. And so I go pulling up to this house and the door, you can imagine what the front doors are like. And I was like, there's something wrong. I could just feel it. There's something wrong. The reason I'm here is because there's something wrong. And I open the doors, and there is a buffalo head so large. It was like a VW bus on the top of this. And it must have been 20 feet in the air. The ceilings were atrium style. I stood there and just bawled, cried, because the Sasquatch had made me feel the essence of the buffalo, the life, the society, the energy. I felt the love and the giddiness, and I felt the connection to the inner earth and them. So as I sat there and cried, I heard in my head, Sasquatch are our brother. Buffalo are our brother. So it was the consciousness of not only that buffalo above me, but the Sasquatch also. I was like, I couldn't hardly do my work. Like I did my work and I got out of there. And then I called and I said, who the hell owns this house? And I said, oh, those millionaires, those new millionaires in town that have Epic. And I go, what is Epic? And they said, oh, it's the Buffalo Jerky Company. And I had to drive through that same portal to leave, knowing that every one of those beautiful buffalo were going to end up as snack food jerky, not a life food substance for any human, not needed on Earth, as vegan junk food or, keto junk food. I was pissed,
Yeah.
So this is the kind of level of stuff I get. I don't get to talk fun stuff. This is like the life lessons I get. And then I have to walk away with the understanding of look how deeply we are into compassion and compassion teachings with Sasquatch.
Yeah.
We can't understand that the buffalo are the brother of the Sasquatch. Then what are we doing with our own brothers?
Yeah. Yeah, we're mixed up. Hey, we got some questions actually. Did you want to?
Yeah, go for it.
Now, I don't know what I'm not sure what this one is referring to. It's kind of.
And the question is,
well, hang on a second. It's kind of a generic question that says, why are they hesitant to talk? But that's kind of a very broad question. So I don't know what
that's
that
a nice
means.
question. There's nothing wrong with that question. I love
Oh
that
yeah,
question.
hesitant to talk. Who, as in the Sasquatch hesitant to talk?
Yeah, I assume so.
They don't trust humans as a collective at this point. They know there's a trust level with humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some, but every single human has free will. Every single one of them. And they know that of us. That's what makes us different. So we aren't fixed to any timelines of activity or behavior. We could be the most loving. I know a story, a really quick one. I know a guy who's a researcher and he loved the Sasquatch, love them from young age when he saw them as a young child and he was enamored and he wanted back to that. So the first time a young Sasquatch made eye contact with him, do you know what he did? Because of his eagerness, he ran straight towards it. No. You want to die? Do you want to be killed by a father unit, a grandpa, a mama? But this was his first reaction, and he was so shamed and remorseful that he knew that this is why they didn't trust. Because he couldn't even trust himself. in that heightened moment, he could not trust himself. And so now he's going about it a different way, more methodical and calmer, so that he's not looked at as sketchy to them, because he just got on the sketchy map. They went like, okay, sketchy human. And they didn't touch him again for years. They didn't come back to him for years until he became methodical so they could predict his actions. And so that's what I say is like a big thing, to be methodical and repetitive.
That question was from Tara Samaran Ashton, and we've got another one from Carl Soup.
Yeah, but her question was actually hesitant to talk. Question was in reference to the people in Shasta, the people under Shasta. Are they hesitant to talk?
You know, there's ownership everywhere of, I know where the best area is and I'm not going to tell you. So there's some people there. I asked several people in a kind fashion, you know, if they knew of any sightings. And of course, they were not going to tell me because they don't know my intentions. They didn't know me. I wouldn't tell anybody either. No. Somebody just blew into town and said, "Where's the Sasquatch?" I don't know.
We got a question from Carl Sup then. I have my question on the near perfect isosceles triangle rock gifted 2 weeks ago at my research area. What would it mean? A near perfect isosceles triangle flat rock. He wants to know what it means.
Almost perfect isosceles rock. Well, I or anyone shouldn't be telling you what that means.
Yeah.
No one should tell him what that means.
Yeah.
You can look up what isosceles means, but you need to find these answers for yourself. This is why we're going astray in Sasquatch land. And I'm sorry, I'm being kind of, but this is where we're letting other people tell us our truths or our alignment with things. And, what does it mean to you? Because that might be one of the best remembrances of your past life. Perhaps you were into geometry. I'm coming up with like general ideas of what that could be, but I'm not going to intuitively embed an idea for you about that gift. So, you have to think about, what were you doing before that? What was actually going on in your mind before that? Are you in a movement with a group? I'm getting group out of that information. I don't know. It could mean anything to anyone, because everything is perception. But I love that you got an isosceles rock. Mine's just a portal.
I totally agree with what you said, Cindy. We have, too many, like, it's kind of, I don't know. Yeah. What you said was bang on. I totally concur with that. So there's another question from Jessica Popson. I'd like to give her my quick answer on it, but then you can give yours. And she says, and thanks for these questions, guys. What's the best thing to give to Sasquatch? In my opinion, something from the heart. Oh, yeah. Anything from, something genuine from your heart is the best thing to give.
And that can even be a genuine question, like a genuine question. Because I gave them once, we were going to give chalk, and I had made little clay Sasquatch heads, and we felt there was a family. So I made representatives of the family so they would know that I knew, we know that you have like a family. And then I just left chalk for them, right? And I thought I drew a couple of smiley faces on some rocks and left them. Well, here they took those pieces of chalk and broke them into how many beings they were. See, the thought is so much deeper than like, oh, they could draw with these. No, you better get some more like intention in based in that is like, oh, they could show me how many they are in their family unit with this chalk.
Yeah.
Subjective.
Yeah. I'm just checking to see if there's any more questions here. Oh, okay. Well, Jessica Popson, this is a comment, but I think there's going to be maybe an answer out of this. She says, I'm new to all of this, but I believe I saw a Sasquatch either in my dream or in my room at night.
Ooh.
It felt so real. He was so tall, his head touched the ceiling. Huge chest. He was massive and dark, maybe black. I didn't feel scared at all. I felt happy. I wanted to see him again. I wanted to gift him something. Hmm. That's for,
Ooh.
yeah. Well, I will
I
say,
just got
Jessica.
I just got a really great feeling from that, you know.
Yeah, I will say, Jessica, just if I may just interject,
Yeah.
the Sasquatch dreams, when they're in your dreams, if it was a dream, that's not really a dream. They're actually there. So go ahead, Cindy.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. This is a repeated story that people tell me over the years, and this is oftentimes how they begin contact, is in the dream state, because they feel safer contacting you in this way, and we are more receptive in our dream state. Our defenses are not quite as broad, and our higher selves are a little more intact, and we can make a little more valued judgment on what we're dealing with in the etheric world. And so I love that story. And so now you can even start being more aware in dream time. This is like maybe start studying a little bit of lucid dreaming and how to enhance your lucid dreaming. And then you can actually start more communication with them, where it can spill over into real life 3D incidents of their presence. You're awfully quiet over there, Michael.
I'm doing little mouse work.
You doing a little mousy work?
Yeah, what I do is I send them out to groups, but it's really laborious because you have to go from group to group to group to group.
Oh, yeah.
And then you forget, and I go, oh no. And then I have to go and refresh my browser, and then it comes up with what was the last group I sent it to. And but anyway, that's where we get a lot of views because we're just sort
That's
of so
cool.
small.
Well, it's
And
good to know what you're doing over there, that you're not just
yeah,
like zoned out. You're doing some stuff.
I have some exciting. I'm so glad you're here. I was talking to Mark. That he's one of the guys who comes on the show. I've interviewed him a lot, and we were talking about going to the other side. And we had I think one of our last interviews was this guy who wrote a book, and one of the things about his book was he was taken to the other side, and they were given teachings by the Sasquatch. It's like he called it crossover. And so Mark has crossed over into the Sasquatch realm. This guy has crossed over in the Sasquatch realm, and I heard of Igor Bristchev, that Russian guy. His partner crossed over into the Sasquatch realm, and they had a conference there, and they were asking him if they could get the government to like leave him alone, leave this particular area alone. So I'm just thinking like, and Mark said he knew of a couple of other people who have actually just gone to the other side. So to me, it's like that's like a milestone, right? People have got used to a little bit of woo. Like some people are maybe can believe that you can talk in your head, and a lot of people are accepting now that the Sasquatch can shimmer or go invisible, But to me, when this just took it to another level. The Sasquatch are actually escorting people to their world on the other side. I just thought you could address that because you know more about that than most people.
This is where more and more humans are coming into their remembrance of their own energy fields and their own sovereign energy fields. And when a body and a mind and a soul are in some type of, perfect alignment, well, that doesn't mean there's perfection in the world, all over the world of the being. It's just that at this moment, there is a perfect structure, a perfect conduit. And when the conduit is open and receptive, and it's not tainted by any dark energy, and that there are no rips and tears in the auric field. This is the perfect avenue for an internal activation. And the internal activation is what actually catapults you into, Dan Winter calls it the into bliss, and it's the longitudinal wave, right? So the longer the wave pattern of the body, the mind, when there's no mind, when we're in the state of no mind, that makes a longer wave pattern. Well, we can reach other dimensions with the longer wave. We can't with short spurts of wave. Well, that's usually any type of language. American, English, any kind of Spanish, any kind of language is short spurt wave stopping. So this is where it's very difficult in 3D. So that's why people whose body and mind are more receptive to this longitudinal wave, and it doesn't make them any better than anyone else. Don't have to be a Shaolin monk to do it. There are people sitting at Walmart, I think, that can do this. And shoot, I'm serious, a shoot right up out of their body. It's like a radioactive mechanism. And then it shoots out of your auric field, but doesn't rip it. And so your consciousness can go to another dimension, and depending on your intentions there, at the base of your radiation, whatever your intention was, is where you'll meet. So if you're just in a blissful state, anything can reach you. So I did this for several years and had different deities coming to visit. It was like, knock, 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 who's there today? And it got, it's abusive, really, somewhat, if you're not channeling your own essence, your own consciousness. So I can meet myself in another dimension, but I better be meeting myself there, not too many other beings. So if there's a deity named this, and that consciousness is a part of me, that's natural. If there's a consciousness outside there that's not natural to you, and you start bringing it into your body, that is a takeover of your auric field. So this bliss state and the consciousness of creation can bring you to sit with the Sasquatch on these councils. And some people have, like I have short burst teachings, because I'm not in a state right now of sitting in meditation for 8 hours a day, which I did at one time. So now I'm getting short bursts because that's what my life is, and it's perfect that way. So it's interesting to watch like people come in and out of the information of the Sasquatch Nation, because it's all the same. It's all beautifully based in love and peace and joy and harmony and freedom. Compassion, forgiveness, and understanding, all those things that we're all working on anyway. So isn't it great to have an example like that, where some humans on Earth can go and sit with these councils, just like people can go and sit with ET councils, and get information from them on how to integrate this.
I think that's much the same principle, right? Same idea.
Oh yeah, I feel it is. I don't really differentiate any of them. Like, most of them are brothers or sisters to us anyway. All life, all sentient life, no matter if it's on another planet or not, is a brother or sister.
And there's a fundamental equalness, that when people like us in the physical body now, we think of, oh, these beings are so high, or these beings are so intelligent. But in the actual reality, they're not that much different than we are. I mean, they may be intelligent, but they're not arrogant or anything like that.
And they are us.
Well, there is that.
So if you're actually meeting yourself on another dimension, that's how portals are opened, and that's how you can become your multidimensional self and have the multidimensional awareness, so that you can have communication at different levels. But it takes a clarity of mind, kind of, and a clarity of body, cellular body, clarity of emotions. So you kind of got to clear your field And some people come into the, like Brian and I were talking earlier, some people come, excuse me, into the earth with clear bodies. I met a guy at the SASQUATCH conference a couple years ago, and his body, there was no cellular debris. I could feel no cellular debris in this man. It was like, wow, this man is in harmony. I couldn't believe it.
I don't even know what that means, and I'm impressed.
And I will not divulge who this person is, but you know him. Y'all do, specifically. And so that's all I'm going to say. But this person was in, a perfect harmonic state for himself. That doesn't mean
he have a beard?
No. No, he did not. No beard. No, y'all are just going. Okay, so anyway.
I just thought that was a milestone because, originally, like maybe 10 or 12 years ago, it was, there was the woo was completely off the table, and it was a terrible thing. But then, there's more people seeing orbs and Sasquatch in relationship to UFOs and paranormal activity happening. So to me, I just thought this was just another step into the complexity of both our lives and what it is to be in relationship with the Sasquatch people.
Yeah. And it is an enhancement to our communication and our understanding, because now we're having to not just defend what we know. Now we can start having conversation. Because,
Cindy, we were talking earlier about giving your energy away to people or to groups or whatever, and that could be dangerous or whatever. Did you want to talk on that?
Which part were we talking about?
Oh, you were saying you don't listen to anybody tell you what.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
surrendering your energy to somebody else or to maybe a group reality or something, kind of thing.
And I'm kind of some people might look at this as really harsh information, and I just have a very kind of a different understanding. When I've done such compassionate teachings and teachings around self-love, it becomes about sovereign energy fields. Now, sovereignty is not a selfish idea. It is actually the most prolific idea for life itself. So when the body and mind is sovereign, it can help and assist many other beings in its clarity. But when there is unclearness in the body, then it becomes a tainted activity. Well, how do we become unclear? We become unclear when our cellular bodies get embedded with information. So I have a high understanding on genetic science and the understanding of how the cellular body takes on information and how it takes off information. And so that's epigenetics and DNA markers. Well, DNA markers are filled with emotional bodies and consciousness that might not be in your best interest. So what have we lived? We've lived mind control. We've lived stories of conditioning. So what is the multidimensional field? Filled with stories, filled with timelines of stories, filled with names and numbers and places and peoples and things. It's a 010101. Could we get rid of all that? And you try to become source through your body.
Let's do that right now. Can we do it right now? I want to go do it now. Can we do it now? I want to go.
No, do it for me. Come on.
Right. Yeah, do it for me.
I'll pay you $100.
$200.
Okay, do it for me. Cause I'll just activate you now. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Sit there and I'll do all the work for you. We're being very facetious right now because this is where we've gone with healing and the modality of healing. We have totally given up the idea of integrity and the understanding of compassion, and especially the understanding if the angel person that's wanting information about whatever goes to someone, and that someone is going to assist them in learning more. Please, if you're the person asking for information, please only go to people that are not going to embed you with more 010101.
Go in for a soul reading and end up with a trunk load of demons. Sometimes
Because
that
you
happens.
don't know, even if it's the cutest, most awesome story, and they name your Sasquatch and your Sasquatch clan and the people you've been with and the people that you're around. When that happens to you, you have been embedded with information that was not originally from the source of your being. That does not make it a truth.
You know, and the Sasquatch also mirror us. And so a lot of these realities mirror the personalities and what the people like as well, you know. So you're kind of buying into their story, and you're not giving yourself justice, you know.
Well, and that's, reading psychic people, intuitive people are extremely psychic. So what can they do? They can read your frontal lobe. What does this person sitting in front of me want right now? They want to hear how awesome they are in Sasquatch land. Their ego is this large, and they would like to hear that they were a Sasquatch elder. So I better say that, or they're not going to like their reading. I'm not even talking or even have a mind for any one person here. So don't think that I'm like shooting darts at you. And if you are sitting there right now thinking I'm shooting darts at you, clean up your field. It's not meant for you. Or maybe it is.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Let's let people, my point is that let's let people do their own healing. That's called compassion.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to heal another person.
Yeah.
That's why I don't even like the word healer.
You know, when I was in that perfect state of that love vibration or whatever, there were no questions. There was just a big knowing. And so that's kind of where the answer or whatever, because, you know, you don't, what was I at this, what was I doing here? What was my, feed my ego here, this, all that, none of that matters. It's just, you don't have any questions. It's just a big knowing. And that's really what we're trying to get to. Right, Cindy?
Yeah. And you don't even have to know anything specific.
Exactly. Because you don't care.
You can know nothing.
No. I'm not even sure if it's a knowing. It's something, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Look at Mr. Beans. He doesn't know anything, and he's been getting by for years.
Seriously, you said one thing a little while ago that rang a bell with me, and it's to me that may be one of the most important things. One of the most important things that humans on Earth need to know, and that is how to change the story, how to erase the story, and how to edit the end of the story. Because if you don't do that, in my little world, wounding, emotional wounding, trauma happens from the outside in, right? And healing happens from the inside out. So if you spend your whole life loading up with trauma and drama and stuff, and you don't ever clear it out, you don't delete it or you don't resolve it. It just sits there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go running off to your guru or to your ascension coach, and she goes, oh yeah, well listen, you're going to get rid of all that old pain and it's going to be beautiful over there, and there's going to be unicorns. There'll be unicorns there. And butterflies, it's like all that stuff that is the opposite of the pain that you're carrying around in your belly. Yeah. So they make good money. That's some of those ascension coaches doing all right. Mm-hmm. But that gets us back to this fundamental question: who are we, and how do we go about editing and releasing and erasing? Is there a soul eraser, or is there a process? Yeah. Is there a service like those guys who come in with a pressure washer and wash down your?
And so there's every type of trauma release, in the world. And you can sit and do trauma release. You can sit and do kinesthetic activities that get thoughts out of your mind and rewire them. That's very helpful. And just rewriting the story and believing it without the doubt stream. So maybe work on the, reason you have doubt. Where did that come from? Your uncle, your grandpa, your mama, or all of the above. So it doesn't really matter where you go backwards to find the original source of this shit, because there's an original source before that, an original source before that, an original source before that. Who cares? Let's just say I was gifted with the epigenetics of yuck. And it's time that I want no more of the yuck. So the next time yuck shows up in my presence, the next time I'm triggered by somebody, and that stuff comes up, and it was like direct relation from my uncle's thought patterns, I get to choose. That was not me. That was not an original thought of mine. Because half of our thoughts are not original anyway. If they were, they'd be more
Almost
source
none of
filled.
them.
Yeah, they'd be more source filled. So, we get to change our motion then. And then the next time it happens, guess what? You're not as triggered. Oh, because you disciplined yourself. That's what you're saying, Michael, about you're the one that rewrites the story. So you can't like go to somebody and go rewrite my story. Well, somebody can show you how to do it. But you're the one that has to sit and like pour through the thoughts and, make the emotions come up so you can clear them. But if we are in denial about the fact that we, are a clear vessel, I'm clear. I did that trauma. We're never clear. As long as you have pathways and cellular debris and, we live in a matrix, sorry, we're never clear. We're as clear as bells right now. And if you just assume that you are clear, here's a question. What if you assumed you were healed right now?
So you assume that you're already fully healed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom.
That would actually carry you quite a long way until
Sure
your
would.
denials came and got you. And when your denials come and got you, it's a whole different world.
And then you're forced to look at it.
You're forced to look at it.
Forced to look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say this what all denials are, right? What denials or the dark night of the soul or shadow work, all that is that, there was a time when you were in your crib or you're 4 years old or something and you started crying, you had a complete meltdown, and because things weren't right in your little world. But then your mom said, "Don't cry, it's okay," and and then you went off and played. That little space of between the time you were in complete panic and meltdown and in horrible pain, and you didn't even know why, and then in the next hour you're playing, that little gap in there where your mind just went off to go play, and that trauma, the great crying, the great meltdown of a child, it never stops. That became an event, and as soon as it becomes an event, it's a memory. It's a fixed memory.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have these events stacked up from your childhood, and your mind doesn't even know that they're there anymore, except when you try to take a step forward into your world, into what your dreams are. And then all of a sudden you feel like you're pulling this ball and chain. And then we turn around, we hate that little child who's crying because it's holding us back, and it's the enemy, and we call it dark. Oh, that's my darkness. That's the dark night of the soul. It's not the dark night of the soul. That's just pain that wants to be addressed. It was just a little baby that wants to be picked up.
Observe
and that
it.
changes what changes the story.
Mm-hmm.
You pick up the baby, changes the story. Say it's okay. I'm here for you. But
and then the next time,
this is what the other thing is. You think you're going to ascend. You're going to go up there and say, "Okay, I'm up here. Here's Perfect Masters over here, and Angelic are over here, and I'm going to. All right, let's go, guys." And they'll say, "Well, you really can't come with us because you got, 35 generations of a trauma that you haven't really looked at. But you did really good about skipping past all that. That was great. And love and light, that really is the truth. But you have to put that love and light back there with the little kid who's crying in the closet.
It has to have equal time. The love and light has to have equal time with the dark in you. And the observation from neutral point is how we actually, make it a harmonic to live on this earth in a happy fashion. So we're getting ready to be like bombarded with all the dark on the earth, and people who have been very sheltered in their life are going to come to some really hard conclusions soon. And their darkness is going to be exposed within them. And I hope that it will be a shortened event and that people don't suffer too hard through it. But it's a necessity. to look at what is actually happening on the earth that no one wants to speak about.
Well, you're talking about something like a catastrophe?
No, I'm talking about existing uh, things that are happening, like pedophilia, human trafficking,
Oh,
mind
yeah.
control, microwave weaponry. Um, yeah,
Adrenochrome.
yeah.
You see,
So,
in my world, the way I look at it is you have 200 out of 300 million people, you have 200 million people who have suppressed those childhood memories.
yeah,
And when you suppress them, right? What suppress means you're not allowed to hear it. You don't want to hear it, don't want to
yeah,
deal with it,
yeah.
which is like a resistance. And that child, remember, the event is the actual crying, the actual suffering. That as an adult, I don't want to go back and feel the actual
Hmm.
suffering. So I allow it to allow that event to go into my subconscious, which I suppress. So it goes, and so subconscious is very much like subterranean,
Yeah.
below the ground. So
Hmm.
that the inner child work is almost identical to these children who are found in these tunnels. It's the same thing. And then what is Rudolf Steiner says? Antipathy is in antipathy is in the nerve, and sympathy is in the blood. So these dark beings drink the blood of children in order to have the fountain of youth. And we, as just regular people, we suppress the crying of the blood of the child
Hmm.
in order so we can live like a functioning life and be able to go to our little disco or whatever we do. And so it's basically the storyline is actually the same between the elites who are doing the satanic rituals and the people who are just trying to live their life without facing their pain. It's the
And
same.
it kind of is, but in one respect, Brian and I were talking about this earlier. Everyone has a soul path and a projection to live. And we have to assume, because we live in a universe, that our higher selves are involved and that everyone is on their perfect path. Even if they're doing dark work, even if they're doing denial of their own life. So, say a person is living in complete denial in this lifetime, this body and this lifetime is not the one they're going to make these decisions. They've already made the choice. And we're seeing that every day, these people who are making the choice to just do this in another life. Well, that's, the opposite of what immortality is. Immortality is taking the same body and bringing in higher consciousness to that body without leaving the body. So it's a death of cycles. It's a death of thoughts. It's a death of ideas. It's a death of psyche. And if we can't come to our own deaths of our own psyche and rewrite our own worlds, then we're going to sit and suffer every freaking day until we rewrite it. And I can choose today that I'm going to continue to work on whatever it is in my cellular body, but I can have happiness from this day forward because I will be in observer mode of what I am witnessing of myself because I processed it.
Well, that's self-love and self-happiness is a big
Yeah.
deal because uh, there's a that Dr. Emoto, when did this thing was talking about water. He did this other thing with plants, right? Where you tell one
Yes.
plant that you love it, and you tell another plant, you're stupid, and then the other plant, you just don't say anything to it, and it turns out that the plant that you say you love flourishes the most,
Mhm.
but the one who flourishes the least is not the one you say is stupid.
Right.
It's the one you don't say
None.
anything
The
about.
one with no attention.
And that is the condition of our soul. If you're in denial, is that the worst thing you can do is nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'll just repeat that. Just go ahead and repeat it. And, that's an okay process. So we can't judge. We're just in the process of understanding that it's fine and okay for any human to say this is too much.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this on earth.
We talked about that before the show, right, Cindy?
Yes, that's called free will. Absolutely.
Well, no, I mean, we talked about, like, I had that experience where I was observing judgment of other people, and I was looking at it from an observer point of view, and I was looking at my own pain, which is the hardest thing to not judge, is ourselves, and looking at it from a neutral point of view. And that speaks to exactly what you're talking about. And, because I was not buying into the emotion of any of it. I was looking at it from an impartial view, so I wasn't, I was, keeping my vibration high and impartial. It was actually quite amazing.
And we can even go to the low emotion, and we can even go to the low vibration. And do you know what that does to the cellular body? It expels it. So in trauma release work, when I do trauma release work, I don't do much of it now, so don't ask me for it. But when other people can do this with you or whatever, the cellular body actually vibrates with the emotion that's displayed, and it actually leaves the body with their own breath. So when it's chosen to feel this emotion and then to expel the emotion, who was in charge of that? You were. You were the one who decided, even if you didn't know what traumas were ripped around in that. That's why I'm saying we don't need to know the stories of our traumas. I don't have to rewrite the history of any story. I'm not going to write it down or relive it or tell you about it. Even if I'm doing an energy healing and I feel a spear in your leg, I am not going to tell you that. Because guess what? It's your job to remember it or not. And if you don't remember it, I might be embedding from my own memory bank.
It's really risky karmically to like fool around with other people's energy. And the Sasquatch don't do it. If you're messed up and it takes you 40 years to get straightened out, they'll meet you at the other end of 40 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they're not going to step in and try to fix anybody.
No,
the angels do that too, basically.
Yeah, it's a hands-off situation. That's the universal law.
Except for sometimes, like when if it's not your time and your car runs into a lake or something, they might do the angel thing and pull you out of that. But that doesn't really change anything fundamentally.
But that's more where your higher self is involved in the decision, so that you have some responsibility with it. That's still like right along with the universal laws if you are willing at a higher level, which is the higher self being willing. But then, just like you said, you can be pulled back and then you live in this void of really not wanting to be on Earth. How many of those people do you know who, had a near-death experience and then they live like floating nowhere? I know a lot of people that aren't in their bodies right now. Unfortunately.
They're physically alive, but they're not in their bodies?
Yeah, their essence and their consciousness lives outside their bodies. So
wow.
These are people whose energy fields are being, pulled off the earth. So they live in these upper chakras. And so the top toroidal field is really super active, and the bottom one you can't feel. So if I have someone on the table, I haven't done this in a while, but if I can't feel their energy field on the bottom. There's like, what happened? Like, where are you? You're not attached to your own Earth star. And so this is like a really important thing, that we're not in our own energy fields if the 010101s have been embedded too hard in your being. And what you're doing is like astral traveling all day, living in etheric means, because people are really stuck in the 3D 5D thing. Like, where are we? Like, I know I'm living 5D, well, okay, but go to Walmart now. Can you? Even if you don't want to, could you? Because this is my barometer for all people that call me, and they're like all having problems, and they're, having problems with infiltration and migraines and this and that. And well, you might not be in your body, and that's the Sasquatch. What a test that is, that they're just in their bodies so fully that when they choose to leave their bodies, it's an instant back. But here we sit for years outside our body because we don't even understand the concept of our own auric fields, because some people want to rip out their chakras.
Hi. Hello, my friend. See you later. Cindy?
Yeah.
When we were talking earlier, you mentioned something, and I don't know how much detail you want to go into it about, but you were talking about you met a time traveler at one time.
Yeah. I woke up in 2007, like a walk-in situation. I was not religious, not spiritual at all, just living a life, but I pretty much died in that life and came back, and it was on April Fool's Day, my birthday. So on my birthday, I woke up with like, I had to recognize my family. And so here I'm just trying to figure out, life. And people started coming to me, like to teach me, like what had just happened, like high teachers. Here I was living the, soccer mom, nonprofit organization, retail store, real estate kind of thing. And then all of a sudden I'm having like druids, Shaolin monks, like preachers, priests, energy healers, and shaman coming to me. They're trying to teach me, like, I just got here to Earth. Could you teach me what's happening? So this time traveler guy I won't talk too much about him. It's kind of a touchy subject. There's some subjects to keep myself safe, I don't talk about. And so I'll just briefly talk about this one. So I got lured into Canada to do spiritual teaching by a master teacher who had taken a body at 7 years old. And he was part of the Montauk projects, and he was a time traveler. He could go to the future and take healing inventions from whatever time frame, future of the time, and bring them back here and build them in front of me and use them and heal people. We're talking about radionics units, light units, sound units, energy units, all kinds, hundreds of units, and all different kinds of devices. So I was with this person for a while. They were teaching me everything that they could about hypnotherapy, epigenetic science, etheric travel, remote viewing. And I had this kind of natural skill when I would go to portals, the portals would open. And I didn't really know what I was doing there, but what I was doing was just meeting myself there in another dimension. And so they studied that. And so I was basically just a
roll that
test
off
subject.
your tongue like that's no big deal. But I mean, that's a big deal.
Well, yeah, if I was to write a
in
book,
one way, there is only one being in the universe, and you have to meet yourself. But
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you could make a movie about this whole little 4-year time span. And so I got to see like real life magic, real life communication with galactic civilizations. I did remote view other civilizations. I would remote view other planetary structures, and I never knew what I would come upon when I was doing that. And it was basically either I was immediately took underground, or there would be a stadium full of people, because I was to go there and talk about compassion, because they had all heard about it but didn't know how to enact it. Most of the planets were under control, mind control anyway, from the masters. And so that's what I was being used for. And then they were taking the frequencies of my body and consciousness and duplicating them for cloning centers.
Did you say you went to another dimension and you gave like a little talk in a like a theater or something?
Either I was underground with few people, or I was above ground with a lot of people.
Wow, because I've had that experience too. It's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, I've never heard that. So
I've
never told the story.
I was taken and they put me up on this stage and they said, "Okay, give you a report," and I didn't know I had a report.
Yeah, I didn't know why I was there until it just became a talk that I knew what they needed to hear.
I was there for 5 hours.
Yeah, some of them felt like days. Some of them felt like days, and I know I lost time in some of that, but I saw a lot of magic.
I'm so glad that you said that, because I feel kind of like the Lone Ranger out here.
Well, there's levels of woo, but I'm at the point in my life where I'm not astral traveling, I'm not remote viewing, I'm in my body fully, because that is what is needed by all humans. So that was the past. We are here to bring cosmic energy, galactic energy, and inner earth energy through our bodies into this grid. and is at a highest vibration as possible. That doesn't mean you can't have a low vibration. It means have the low vibration, have it now, process it, love it, and then let's be done. And then this grid changes, and then the storylines change, and then maybe we can have whatever's going to happen. You know, I'm ready for stuff to happen.
So did you actually see this fellow, or did you see any results of any diseases or anything cured? Did you see any results from these
Oh,
events?
sure. There was one device that was a dodecahedron device that was as big as a room, and you open it, sit inside it, and it had 3 levels of sound and light. And they had cadence. The light had different cadence for sacred geometry, and so people would go in with epileptic seizures or tremors and come out with no or little tremor. So the dodecahedron is the energy of the earth. It's the same kind of energy consolidation as the earth is, and so that you become one with earth when you're in that, and that becomes a healing. So, you know, if you go deep in the forest, you know, those trees and that river is going to heal. I've watched that, you know, numerous times. I've watched water heal people. But a dodecahedron device with sound and light, you know, hooked up to electricity can do it too. Well, maybe we'll move beyond that even, you know, but these devices can heal.
Ryan, we got like 50 comments, you know, so I'm sure there's stuff you could ask questions with. I gotta go dip out for just a second. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to see if I can see any questions. So what were some of the interesting races that you're saying you met a bunch of different races or whatever? Can you describe some of the ones that like fascinated you the most, or?
I didn't get, you know, because this was a remote viewing session that they were not going to tell me the results of. So I only could just take in the information of what I was experiencing. You know, there's no feedback. So I would be making up stuff to tell you about who it was or where it was, but I certainly felt benevolent beings, somewhat like tall whites. Benevolent ones, underground. Tall whites are not known for benevolence. So I felt benevolence from these beings that look like tall whites. And then there'd be another place that would be, you know, the ones that look more humanoid, like Pleiadian. And I can't tell you for sure that it was the Pleiades. I mean, like, was there a sign that said it? You know, was there like, you know, welcome to the Pleiades? I didn't get a ticket, so I don't, you know. So that's my kind of point with a lot of this astral travel and all this subjective woo, is that if something cannot be a living miracle right here on Earth, I really almost don't want to talk about it anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. So that you think about that, that cuts out a lot of conversation in the spiritual world, in the New Age world, and in the Sasquatch world, because everything becomes a story and a storyline. And if we just deal with energy and what energy is being presented or not, it doesn't require us to be in that kind of subjective mode all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, where you? Oh, I maybe don't want to ask you where you're living or in hiding.
I'm not really too in hiding. Anybody could find me really if they were good at, you know, internet stuff.
But you're somewhere back.
There was a time when I was in hiding. I spent 8 years off the grid. I spent not living off the grid, but like my name not on the grid. And now I don't have to do that. So there's reasons why I don't have to do that now. And so I live in the mountains of North Carolina. So this is where I've been for a lot of years, on and off. But I've traveled to British Columbia and to the Toronto area, which I do love Canada. especially loved, British Columbia. So gorgeous. And, but something keeps drawing me back to this area where I am. And at times I would come back kicking and screaming, basically. And my life has been around the idea of harmonization. So wherever I go and land, or wherever I'm sent to be it by the universe, is usually for harmonization, mediation, calming the thing down, or bringing life to the thing. So I'm kind of in a county up here in North Carolina that's kind of dead, and probably some nefarious bullshit going on here, which in a lot of these counties there are. And so I've unearthed a lot of ugliness in these mountains for years. And I'm not allowed to leave yet, but I love the mountains. These are the oldest mountains in the Northeast, or in the whole North America, actually. They're filled with quartz crystal. So it's the highest vibration. And for years, the old timers talk about it's hard to live here if you've got troubles, because it's going to make troubles for you, because the quartz amplifies anything that's happening.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to ask you, we talked about this too. So, I think that we know that the Sasquatch, they're one of their main messages about no judgment, love, no judgment, connection, whatever,
yeah.
right? I mean, that's probably the core message for me anyway. So I'm wondering, but it's very, very disappointing, and I don't want to mention any names or anything, because that's not what I do. That's just negative energy. But I'm wondering, so many people who, I'm not going to say high, but are standing behind the lofty, like enlightened opinion of themselves or whatever, but they are still doing all the same old crap of judging and, like cliques. We don't like you, and there's all the same things that the basic lesson that we're taught. What's the disconnect there? Well, why can't? What is it? I mean, it's so obvious to me.
I call it. I have a word for it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean, and it's an irreverence. It's a new age irreverence, and so I call it the creator God status. So when I'm dealing with people who have a very active solar plexus, this is usually a galactic version of themselves that's come in that doesn't give no shits about what you think or anybody else thinks. They are superior in all ways to human life. And because of that, they're going to bring the energy of superiority in everything they do. And I know this because it happened to me. When the solar plexus is fully engulfed and on fire, you're going to feel it, and it's going to come out in your life. And you might just like make waves wherever you go. And I know I had that going on. And so it becomes creator God status, where you're going to prove to the world what you know, how you know it, and you're going to hear yourself talk because you need to hear it, not because the other person needs to hear it.
What was
yeah?
What was the tilting point for you? When did you come out of that state and into how your understanding of it is?
Well, it was actually it came. Okay, so not only does the creator God status happen, it also is simultaneous with the victim status. So at the same time that I was having that I am superior, that's why I'm being attacked by 3-letter agencies. Da 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 da. That's what the storyline is. Well, that creates a victimhood status. So I asked the universe for a master alchemist to come help me figure this shit out. And I come to find out that what I was missing was the self-love that grounded me into my body so hard that I could look at myself a lot more impartially and say, oh my God, are you actually having that thought? Are you actually feeling so superior? Did that just come out of your mouth? Because harmony had to happen. So this was through trauma release. and activating the rest of the chakras so the other one was not so inflamed. You'll have to unmute yourself.
I don't know. Like, I'm not, like, just where my understanding is right now. And I don't believe, like, there's nobody ahead or behind exactly where we're supposed to be, but it just puzzles me, that behavior. Like, if we're actually serious about being light workers or giving a message or whatever, like, it's a cliche, but we have to walk our walk and talk our talk and actually live it. You can't be talking about togetherness and all connected and all one, and then, like, blocking this person and we don't like this person and bad mouthing this person and sending negative energy. It's just like you're just doing the same old crap that everyone else is doing. What are you doing?
It's almost just like read a book on peace and then go preach it, instead of accepting peace as an idea, allowing peace into your body, and then activating peace in your life. It would take months, maybe days, maybe years for some people to actually consciously do this. But we read about peace and we preach it. That's where the disconnect is. And the people who don't know how to get any peace, who are suffering, are going to listen to the person who says, this is how you get peace. I channeled it. And because I channeled it, it's true.
Was that God or was that being?
But I didn't have to do the work.
It was God. We are all gods.
Yeah, I pissed off everybody in 2012 when I said that
no,
we
but
are
you know what, though? I mean,
and Jesus.
This isn't fooling around. You gotta call people out. I mean, like, if that's judging, I'm sorry, but I mean, hey, if you're gonna talk about being connected and all one, and then you start saying I don't like this guy because he doesn't agree with me, or or whatever, or just total trash in the person, you're not getting it. Sorry.
Yeah. So
and by the way, I'm not immune to that either. I mean, I'm a work in progress.
Yeah, so we all are, right?
I judge you for judging.
Yeah, it's like we're put here. We're sitting as the facilitator people. We're the one telling other people stuff. We're the ones that could fall under that too in any given sentence.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
like
what I mean?
Every show I'm judging, like
human.
every show I'm saying I'm judging. How am I going to get through this show with a diabolical Frank Oliver Beans?
Radical acceptance.
Use
radical acceptance.
Yeah.
Radical acceptance. That
and humbleness.
Bizarre radical acceptance.
And being half crazy doesn't hurt.
But humbleness. So I've got a story. So this was my biggest teaching on peace. Like, how do you get peace? So this was a story from a Shaolin monk that taught me how peace was.
Shaolin monks. Wow, that's
a Shaolin monk. Yeah, so up in Toronto, there's a Shaolin monk that I got privy to see because his best friend was my teacher. And we would go there. It was a first come, first serve kind of situation at his dojo. And he would do energy healings and acupuncture. And so people would just line up. Well, we were, lucky enough to be there 30 minutes early. He would open his doors and we would just be the only ones there. So he laid me on the table and he was getting ready to do something, and he checked his phone, and what he was involved with was like the International Kung Fu Association dinner for 300 people that night that we had got invited to by him. We were going to sit at one of the head tables with him. And he was agitated because there were people calling him and asking him stuff, and the entertainers and the performers and the people in the parking and the food. And he was, a little overwhelmed. And he's still a Shaolin monk, right? So I'm laying there and he's taking these calls. And he's talking Chinese, so he can't understand. And he puts the phone down and he won't look at you until he's ready to work with you, because then he can see the flash of color that he's working with. So he hasn't looked at me yet. And I can tell he's agitated, and he turns around and he goes, "You have the peace." And I go, yeah, I got the piece. He goes, I want the piece. I said, you can have it, right? And he goes, yes. And he turned around and he went, peace was like emanating from his body in colors, rainbow freaking colors. I just got taught the heaviest lesson on peace of my life in 3 minutes. I watched a Shaolin monk calm his ass down and bring peace to his body without a healer doing it for him, without anything but his own conscious mind. I took away from that I can do this and be anywhere and deal with anything if I'm conscious through it. So that's where I can, remember my humbleness when I watch that. So when people want to say how big they are, I remember that. No one's bigger than that for me. No one on earth is bigger than that for me. That was the display of what a human on earth should do. That's what my goal is, to walk the earth as that. Well, I'm still in a human body. I still have a name, Cindy. I'm not going to fault myself for, trying. And none of us can do that either with Sasquatch land, right? It's all very new to a lot of us, right? Some people have lived with it for ancient ages in their, First Nations life, in their family history, in their grandma stories, in their backyard. Some of us are just coming to get to know them and that they're even there. Like 2015, I didn't give a shit if there was a thing. And then like your heart blows up. And then you're like, oh, there's a thing.
Yeah. What do you, I've talked about this many, many times. I mean, that's one of the things I talk about more than anything. But from your perspective and in your own words, what are the Sasquatch people here for to do with us right now? What are they doing with us, the people that they're connecting to?
I believe they're the ambassadors of disclosure of all dimensions, inner earth, galactic, and cosmic. Because they're the closest thing to human in the galactic, in the cosmic fields. So in the ET land, who is what beings have the ability to be on Earth as strongly as them, have communication as strongly as them, and it not be made up, etheric imagination or embedded 0101s.
What do you think about them teaching us how to feel and to think with our heart instead of the head? That's a big lesson.
Oh my God, like finally somebody's going to teach us that? Because nobody taught us that. Your preacher didn't teach you. Yeah.
You see, that's in that heart space and that dimension, that's where the no thinking and the all knowing is. And so, yeah, and the no judgment and everything.
Yeah, coming to 0 point.
400 years of the Spanish and Inquisition, and there was also the French and the Italian, where anybody who had any kind of heart consciousness or any strong women or people who are into magic or portals or herbs, they just killed them in the middle of the church. So that puts a kibosh on talk about collective clearing. That puts a kibosh on anybody who has psychic abilities and the mothers, and that's why even now people with kids with psychic abilities, no, don't get into that. It's like it's this little shiver of that fear of death. Yeah.
But luckily, I'm seeing a lot of the crystal children and the children that are new that are just talking about their past lives so dramatically and with such force that it can't be denied. And now they're documenting it. And, it's like even on TikTok, that crazy, stupid app that's filled with that. I went to it to see what the pulse. I always go to see what the pulse of things are for humanity. What's everybody involved in? And sure, I thought it was fun, and I put my art on it. Does it have a frequency coming off of it? Yes, it does. Does it have addictive frequencies? Yes. Does it have mind control frequencies? Yes, definitely so. The music that's involved in it is embedded as zero ones, and it's very difficult to get out of that frequency. So use things on Earth as meant for yourself to be safe and meant for yourself to be harmonic. If I stayed on the computer too much, it doesn't help my body or my mind. And so I've learned to be away from it more, and that's been very helpful to me. I used to be attached to it with my businesses for years. So now I have a complete aversion to it and phones from real estate and all those other things I did.
What do you guys think of, like when the witches and whatever, and the people who were having what Bean just talked about, uh, uh, you know, sight or whatever? Do you think that they were being killed because there were people who were aware that they were dangerous to a system that they were trying to maintain, or were they being killed just out of ignorance, or both?
Well, probably both. At a high level, the deep state has always known that anyone that is a seer or intuitive is a threat to the whole game, because the whole game is based in deception. And because the deception is so large and has gone on for so many hundreds of years, seers can see through it. And so the mind control happens at very young ages. For people that are kind of born into a seer family or an intuitive family. That's why Native Americans have been attacked most of their days, is because of their extreme level of intuitive nature with Earth. They don't, the deep state doesn't want that kind of thing. So what do the deep state do? They mind control others against the powers of seers. So back in the day,
They call them demonize them.
yeah. So they would they're still doing it today in all churches. Churches don't want anyone to be seers. That's blasphemy. So they bring Sasquatch right into the Nephilim and right into the fallen angel situation, and that's just
man, that's the only window some of these people can look out of. It has to be in the Bible somewhere, and they say find the worst place they can find it.
Deep state program.
Yeah. Well, anyway, about that, I've had the Sasquatch connect some dots for me, right? And I just thought I would run this by you and see what you think.
Yeah.
One of their homelands was in Mu, which is India, southern India, and then they had to retreat up into the mountains. And we've had catastrophes on Earth many times in the last 5 million years, and the Sasquatch showed me that they showed me an American Indian going out to do a vision quest, and where he does his vision quest, he fasts. And he doesn't drink any water for like 3 days, and he just sits there out in nature away from anything. And then he gets his vision, the power animal or a vision of the future or something like that, But Sasquatch showed me that they are always monitoring that all over the world. All of the shamans who do their shamanic rituals, there's a Sasquatch who, kind of makes sure that they're at least in the right ballpark, right? And then they showed me about the yogis, and the masters and the great yogi masters. Those guys almost all we hear this story about. They go up to a cave, or they go up to a cave in the mountains, and then they just sit there, and then they're out in nature completely alone, and until they reach enlightenment. And the Sasquatch showed me that whenever there's been a dip in people being able to access their inner light or access their heart or connect to nature because of governments or because of world disasters, and everybody's freaked out, the Sasquatch have been there nurturing and mentoring the healers and the guides and the wisdom keepers and the gurus. So I want to know what your reflection is on that, because that's pretty profound. That they are the keepers of our sacred consciousness. You know.
Um, you know, I believe that they're so connected to humanity's consciousness that there
Humanity.
would be a reciprocal consciousness at that same level to communicate. Communication would be quantum, right? So it's macro, micro, it's individual to individual, group to group, clan to clan. But here we are talking about a whole consciousness. Well, when a whole consciousness has to come into a collective feature, they're going to take the highest levels of their clans or the collective to bring in the information so that that information isn't tainted by the lower vibrations of the collective. So it's natural. I mean, it feels total natural to me that that's how the Sasquatch Nation brings information. So it's a collective movement of sharing. And I think a lot of us are just picking up on the sharing. And how is this sharing happening? And how are humans, receiving? And how are Sasquatch in general receiving? Because we are meant now to be commingling, you know what I mean? Like, we're meant to know of each other on a grander scale. And so it makes sense that there would be a guidance.
And I think the star people do the same thing.
Oh gosh, yeah.
When people go on a ship, they get they get a little body upgrade, or they get some healing, and they just get they monitor them that, and then a whole lot of them just get upgrades of intelligence, upgrades of awareness, upgrades of information, and a lot of it's spiritual, but it can be other things too.
Yeah, it can be
So,
science,
I think
geometry.
there's like we'll get on two sides, above and above with the star people, and then the Sasquatch are coming along going, okay, listen, we got to make it real. We got to be able to live together.
And that's making it real is the key, because like I said, that's why I'm not focused on anything that's not real right now, because we're in the 3D, 5D, where 5D is merging with 3D. So the 5D will be in biomass. It will not be etheric. It will not be plasma. It will come in and be the real thing, but a higher vibration. So I'm here to see real work on the real plane and real thoughts coming out of reality, however it comes. But reality is subjective. Reality is a perception and based on everybody. So it's an individual process, but a collective process.
And it's mutable. That's what you just said. This the conditioning that we've had to put up with 12,000 years of war, 12,000 years of kingship, and us being the serfs and the slaves. Our collective consciousness is mutable, and the war on consciousness is them trying to imprint onto us that we're less than worthy, we're the scum of the earth, we're useless eaters and all that kind of stuff, that we have no power, and earth is bad, cities are good, rich is good, and if you're not rich, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
All that stuff is just programming, and it's not real at all.
Yeah. And so that's when we drop the program. What do you have left? You have the progenitor stream of life itself. And that progenitor stream has many versions of you within it. And you get to choose what versions of you come out of this body, mouth, mind, soul. Like, what part of the 0-1s do you even want to integrate?
That's the probability wave. You're talking about the probability wave, and people need to understand that. Is when you have mind control, it is the collapse of the probability wave.
Yes.
You have 1,300 religions. 1,300, and they say that your religion that you were born into is the main one. And that collapsed the probability wave of learning from 1,300 religions. And in order to do that, you have to say, I don't believe in this religion. I don't believe in this religion. I don't believe in this religion. You have to do that 1,300 times. That's the collapse of the probability wave. And as you were saying, and so you said this many times already, meet yourself in another dimension, meet yourself, or there's an alternate self. And that alternate self is the probability wave of you. You could be a fireman, you could be an artist, you could be a teacher, you could be, you could be a sage and a saint, you can be a prisoner, you can be all these different kind of things, but that's your probability wave. And we need to have a probability wave and not be one particle stuck on a measuring device.
Yeah, and so that's like, it goes right along with my thought that, the people who are pretty myopic about Sasquatch are kind of doing themselves a disservice, because they are so many different things and different consciousnesses on so many different dimensions and octaves that they're not giving that part of them equal time in the body. So when you give equal time in the body to the consciousnesses that are the most benevolent, right, of you, and that can include Sasquatch, of course, you're doing a full spectrum of light service for yourself. Otherwise, Sasquatch is one ray of light in your full spectrum. So this is why, I try to get people to kind of look outside of Sasquatch for their full guidance on their soul, because it's not a Sasquatch that's guiding your soul. No. He'll teach you about your soul. They'll teach you how to deal with your soul. What is a soul? What is your truth? What is cellular debris? How do you become blissful around
debris some more, because that was mentioned in the comments. Some lady really resonated with that.
What's that?
Debris. You talk about the debris.
Oh, cellular debris. So epigenetics is the science of the DNA markers. And so these little DNA markers on your cells, they just duplicate and they're all on your cells. Well, they got there from all different kinds of different consciousnesses. And those can be traumatic, PTSD, consciousness, fears based in, or pain. And so it could have come from your ancestral line. It could have come from your grandma's grandma, who had like a fear of heights because she fell off a mountain cliff. And that consciousness moved over into the next sibling, because that's what consciousness does. It's part of science. And so they can identify these little markers on the epigenetics that if you bring attention to the marker, which means that I call them epigenetic gifts. So if my grandma gifted me the gift of, fear of heights, then I bring attention to that fear, then I've actually allowed myself to activate that to leave my body, because I've brought attention to it for it to leave, or I brought the understanding that it is not mine. So when we sit there and go, I'm the victim of this thing, I have fear of heights, I can't go there, I can't go to Walmart, I'm too sensitive. Those kind of things are like, that's your own responsibility. You live on an earth. If you're too sensitive on earth, you need to harden up. You need to go hang with some people that aren't so nice. See how you do. Harden up. The aura gets really sensitive and gushy and mushy when we live in the outer 3 layers of it, because they're not really connected to the lower layers. So if we get solid in our bodies, solid in our thoughts, and solid in our minds, and then we are in allowance of whatever, then that's the auric field that can proliferate life. So that's where the cell can add new information, because you took off old information. What's the new information? Maybe it's peace, because you took out the trauma and you decided it wasn't yours, and now you got to replace it with something. If you remove a trauma, you need to replace it. So if you don't do anything and forget, it might replace itself with love, or it might replace itself with debris. So cells work through sound, through thought, through sonics, supersonic mind.
Images
The
too.
cells change when you think it. So when you talk to your cells, the cells change. I know super soldiers that can talk to their body and their muscles get this big. I can talk to somebody and their entity and they change into that entity.
So what?
In hypnotherapy, if I was talking to someone and I caught that they had a demonic entity or some type of outside influence, I could talk to that entity and their actual body would shapeshift into that thing.
Wow.
Wow.
Teeth will grow, ears will grow, voice will change.
I was thinking along the lines of duck. If you told them they're going to be a duck, then they would start acting like a duck. But that just went right off in another way.
That kind of hypnotherapy.
Sounds like a duck. It quacks like a duck is a duck, right?
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah, what
Cindy,
you're saying is absolutely true, because there's people who've done, the multiple personality people, where their eyes change color within like 3 minutes, and when they go from one personality to another, and in one body they would be diabetic, and another one they weren't diabetic, and you could test that with like in 3 seconds. You can test whether they have diabetes. So just imagine how powerful that is, to go from being diabetic, and then you shift your personality, and all of a sudden you're not diabetic. So that's epigenetics right there.
And that's like the shadow aspects of your being changing and morphing the energy of the body. And what I'm talking about is a different consciousness taking over the body, and then it shapeshifts.
So people talk catchphrase like a conscious shift, but for Dummies 101, a conscious shift is raising your vibrations, I suppose.
No, to me it's not, and because rising the vibration is kind of a limited concept. Like I can go from agitation to up the ladder to like, okay, I'm a little bit satisfied, and then I can go up to like, oh, okay, I'm like just okay with stuff, and then I'm up here like I'm real happy, and then I'm up here I'm real blissful. It's like there's a range of emotional states that in the body that create frequency.
Okay, but let me rephrase it in a different way then. So we're all connected, so our energy affects everybody else, right? And we're all connected energetically.
Oh, sure. I mean,
so what does a person do to, a person to practice staying in that state, or being in that state of no judgment and love, or whatever? How do you, because how do you, what is that, how do how do I get there? What do I do?
Do something. Like, so I made a boot camp for myself.
Do it harder.
Yeah, well, I made boot camp because I'm a stubborn ass. And so I made boot camp for myself. And so what I would do is I would take the negative thoughts and I would freaking write them out on a piece of paper. And the negative thoughts had, there's usually a word in there that like sings like la la la, rejection or something. Well, then what I would do is take a thesaurus. I did this every single day for a year and a half. And I would take a thesaurus and write the opposite of that word until I believed it. I am not rejection. I am inclusiveness. I am inclusiveness. I am inclusive. And then find every word that means inclusive. If I had to sit there and work the word inclusive for 20 minutes, I would do it.
Yeah. And that's why we have to be in our heart instead of our head, because the head is exclusive and the heart is inclusive.
Exactly. And it's antithetical. That means it rejects.
Yeah.
So
because the head's got all the stories.
Stuck in a belief system, which is a liability, is the mind, because it rejects all of the possibilities.
Well, the head is just all the stories of the lies we've been taught from generation to generation.
Well, and it's the logic behind it, and the reasoning that the reasons we feel are essence, and then we want to, validate it through this.
And how does one raise their vibration when it's totally like every little word leads to, like, we're conditioned to lead to judgment, and generally judgment can, or lack of compassion, and it can be negative, so it keeps our vibrations kind of low. So it's kind of like we're really going.
Wait. You're on a slippery slope there.
What do you mean?
First of all, when you label it, said this is my vibration is low, and my vibration is that. In reality, our vibration is as high as God, is as high as source. Okay, and if you start walking in that, I am God, I am one, the source and I are one, I am the highest vibration. And then from the highest vibration, you can sit back and say, okay, what's holding me back from feeling better? Because you can't attain what you already are. In order to attain what you already are, you have to pretend that you're less than you are, and then work your way back up to what you are. Right?
And it's like, how can you be the highest vibration in the lowest vibrating place you can think?
Ooh, yes, that's very.
This is where the work actually is, and this is the boot camp I took myself to.
So yes,
raising. This is why I say go to Walmart.
That's amazing. Keeping your vibration high in the lowest, in the most agitating, lowest vibrational situation.
And it has to do with belief. If you say I'm in low vibration, that rejects everything else of every other possibility. Yeah. But in the lowest vibration, listen, I attain like a type of God realization in my pain.
Yes,
I connected to everything in the whole universe in my pain, in the deepest primal pain, and most people don't really can't comprehend. But anyway, it's there. Source is there. There is no, we have this conditional mind. It has this little barometer on it: low, medium, high. Your tank is empty, and that's none of that stuff's actually.
And source comes as Zeus in a damn lightning bolt sometimes, and it's gonna, freak you the fuck out. And here we go, thinking that we have to be like, No, this is about high vibration. Is at any given moment. How about taking 0 point vibration? That's a little different, like barometers. I hold it like you got to throw that whole barometer out of the scale when you're talking about that kind of vibration. There's no high or low. It's you are. It is. I am. And then you're standing in a very low vibrating place with some people chugging some Mountain Dew and eating some Little Debbie cakes, and you're fine with it.
I want to see Beans eat a Little Debbie cake.
I like pink. I like the pink ones.
Oh,
pink ones?
Pink ones, they suck, man. Come on. You get
chocolate. They're not Debbie cakes, but what they are is they're like what they're little marshmallow looking things.
No, there's oatmeal cream pies, and then there's like the chocolate ones.
Yeah, those are the good ones.
Cosmic brownies.
I like we're talking the cream-filled things that last, through a nuclear winter.
Ding dongs.
So I'm sure that you all have met some of the most like highly attuned spiritual beings that are probably some of the lowest vibrating people you've ever met. Homeless, Mm-hmm. I have met some of the, wow, these people are spiritually aligned while they're chugging beers and doing whatever drug. Wow. They have like beauty coming out of them, but they're doing their path. That's why we can't judge. They're doing their path perfect.
Yeah. And, and I've always said, and I wrote about this in a way, that you should actually applaud them and rejoice because they're doing hard work. You're doing work that's, maybe hard, but it's still, that's the hardest work you can do when you're suffering and doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Until you come to a realization that you can control suffering. I mean, that you can actually be the one in charge of your body, mind, soul.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we have any more questions there, Mr. Beans?
You're the one who's supposed to be doing that. I'm supposed to be taking care of all the intellectual, witty stuff.
Okay, well, when are you going to start doing that?
I was just thinking. And then look, and here's the other thing. We always, I think is a great disservice to people. It's both a boon and a curse to experience some kind of cosmic bliss, some kind of world altering cosmic bliss, because then you immediately pin the tail on the donkey and say,
Yeah.
that's
I
it.
have to be there.
That's it.
I'm
That's
not
it.
there.
That's it. But
I have to vibrate high.
that's a temporary state. I mean, uh, and then you strive for it, right? Strive for it,
Yeah.
and you never really reach it. It's just like what a mind
Well, it's an empty goal.
fuck that shit is.
It's an empty
But
goal,
but
just
I
like
mean, it's
any
not that it's not
achievement.
true. And
Yeah. So you could just achieve the status of now, the status of being in my body, the status of drinking water, the status of making my life no bigger or better than anyone else's, so that I can stay in a humble state and do the work that my soul really wants me to do, which is come into alignment with my peaceful side, because I've been a hellion in quite a few lifetimes.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I'm just trying to be calm and have fun, even though there's strife and suffering everywhere.
before I did my dark night of the soul, I was like a yogi, right? And I was one of these guys who meditated an hour a day and did that for years and years and years. And I got to some really high elevated states. And what I realized is every time I'd get up to a higher level of state, it's like drinking coffee. If you drink one cup, you get used to it. You drink two cups, you get used to it. You just get used to that higher state. And you basically don't feel any different than you ever did. I remember one time I walked by this guy. He was in my house, and we were having some workshop or something. And I walked by this guy. He was sitting on the floor, and he said, "You know, Michael, every time you walk by me, my whole head fills up with light, right?" And and that was a teaching for me, because I didn't feel like I was light. I felt like a miserable schmuck. And as a matter of fact, it was like a few months after that I hit the dark night of the soul, and I had to like clear out all the stuff that was making me feel miserable while I'm so full of light that other people can see the light inside of their head for me. It was like that was not so. I quit doing meditation. I quit that whole thing, and I just started focusing on my soul recovery and my and feeling my emotional body and getting that sorted out. And so as soon as that got sorted out, and I didn't have any more emotional pain, which actually took a couple of years of really hard work, when I didn't feel any more pain, I also didn't have any more need to be spiritual. I didn't have to attune to anything. I didn't have to reach anything. I hadn't to go anywhere.
No
It was
seeking.
enough just to be alive without pain. You know,
Yeah.
This is plenty enough.
Yeah. And when you get to the place where you're not seeking spiritually, or you're not seeking in the Sasquatch land, you're not seeking. You just are there. It's a really peaceful place, and it's a very nurturing and very healing in of itself. It's very subtle, the energy that rides with you when you live in that. And when things come at you, you have the ability to let it roll, discontinue it, dismantle it, move on. And change is here, and that's what I feel the Sasquatch have taught a lot of us too, that change is upon us. And even our minds are going to have to change, because I think we went off like one tangent with the Sasquatch. Well, we've gone off on many tangents with the Sasquatch, to fear and to woo woo. And so what we're trying to do is to collapse the fields into a more conscious reality that everyone can be a part of, not just in your imagination or in your mind. It's a reality.
And it's the same thing with the Star Nations, is after you get over the woo of, the high tech and the spiritual beings floating around out there, that actually becomes a normal. It becomes just another facet of life, and which is a good way of going, actually.
Yeah, and so it's like, that reminds me of a story. Like, I remember when I just first woke up, everything was fascinating. Like this whole world was so fascinating. So fascination is a real elixir. You know what I mean? It's like an energy high. It's like the drug, of choice. So fascination keeps us in those realms of the fourth dimension, like, wow, so amazing, right? Or even ghosts or paranormal or anything. We're just like in fascination. I went to a psychic. This is really early on when I first woke up, and someone took me to a psychic. And the psychic was just telling me a story about how his mom had just called him and told him that Aunt so and so was walking across the backyard. And I just listened to him, and he said, but Aunt so and so has been dead for 10 years. And I'm like, what? Your mother called to tell you that she saw that? Yeah. I said, well, how often do y'all see? Every day. She walks across in the house every single day. And I was just like, he goes, it's just nothing. Just get over it. It's stop with the fascination. Because I kept asking questions. He was like, honey, this happens every day. And right then it hit me like, you're in fascination. You're in the elixir. You're in the high. Get out of it. Come back to your body and say, there is a thing called paranormal, and ghosts do walk in another dimension across people's backyard. Get over it. Move on. So that's kind of how I got taught. Like, get out of fascination fast. And
it's the same thing with abilities. The Hindus have a story about a princess who was like a real tomboy, and she didn't want to marry any of these lazy, fat princes that come around. So she had this thing where if one of these princes who wanted to marry her and become, inherit her property, if they could beat her in a race, that then she would marry him. So all these princes were like try to work out and everything. But there's one prince, and they would always lose. And then if you lose, then they became a slave to the princess. So she had all these princes just waiting on her, and she treated them like dirt. But anyway, this one guy realized that this lady liked baubles. She liked jewels and gold and bracelets and things like that. She loved that stuff. So what he did is he put all these. He sold his kingdom and he sold his father's inheritance and got all his money, and they made it into all these little gold things, and he put it all the way around the track, right? And this lady was so confident in herself that she could run, and she started picking up these gold and put it on her, and crowns and carrying all this stuff, and he would always pass her, and it ended up that he won, right? And the story about that is he won because she was busy trying to pick up the gold along the way. And that's what these abilities are, like the ability is to mind speak, or the ability to go into another dimension, or to go into higher realms. Those are just abilities. And if you spend your time doing that, then you really kind of lose the race. Because, there's another story about a guru who met a sadhu, and the sadhu had learned how to walk across the river on the water. He could walk across on the water. And then the guru was getting in a boat and paid the ferry like a penny to go across there. And he said to the sadhu, he said, "How long did it take you to do that?" And he said, 50 years. He said, "I'm going to go across right now for a penny." You know what I mean? It's just there's no value in it. Like, what does that actually do? If you actually learn how to walk on water, how practical would that actually be in your life?
yeah, so that's why I ask. If what you're involved in hasn't created a living miracle, what are you doing?
Well, if you live on an island, that might help. You wouldn't have to buy a boat.
If you could create a living miracle, yes. But if you're going to sit here and etherically go and be in your boat with the dolphins and in etheric land, and then you come slamming back to your body, how much did you help yourself on that island?
Mm-hmm.
You need to be like toting wood.
Yeah.
All in water. That's what we're all supposed to be doing now.
There are people who are natural psychics, and I think that's part of their path. but to try to achieve like a third eye, people talk about, I want to get my third eye. It's calcified. Oh my God, I'm going to take a hammer and break up the calcium. No, if your third eye wasn't working, you would be dead. Okay. Your third eye was working all the time. And there's no way you can get in there and amplify it or hook it up to electrode like Frankenstein. You're doing all right. Don't even worry about it. You don't need your third eye.
And the thing was, I didn't ask for any of my gifts. I didn't, none of them. I didn't try to get one. I didn't explore them. They'd all came in one day, so I had to develop them and understand them, but it sure, wasn't a seeking thing. But that was an unusual thing for me. So,
do you have any of your art in like a file or something?
yeah, I do. Yeah, I could probably share my screen.
At some point, it would be. I just think it would be fantastic to see your art, because that your art, you got one of the most distinctive vernaculars of almost any artist I ever saw. You have this great language. You have a great story that you tell with your every painting.
Yeah, let me just see if I can find a folder and see if I've got anything in it. Yeah, I got a million folders. Hang on a second.
Sam Chandler says, when is Cindy coming back to Oregon?
Oh, I don't know. Who's inviting me?
That's Sam Chandler.
Oh, Sam. I love Sam.
Yeah, he's good.
Well, I've been talking to a friend in Bend about coming back, and so I just don't know when that's going to happen. But I'd love to. Okay, let's see. I think I have. I'll just go through this file. I have no idea what's in it, but.
Oh, and,
Okay.
Then this Tara says, Cindy, do you plan to attend the SASQUATCH family reunion in Kettle Falls, Washington?
The one upcoming in the fall?
Yeah, Kelly Rainbow,
I hope. I am just not I'm not very good at making long range plans.
Yeah, neither me.
At all. So how do I share the screen? Is that you want me to do?
If you want to talk, yeah, I'd just love to see your art.
Well, it says host disabled, so it says disabled.
Because Brian's sleeping at the wheel.
Okay, maybe I can do it now. Nope. Host I'm viewing your screen, Brian. It may not have that option. Yeah, that's Brian's screen. Nope, it's not going to do that, I don't think. But they can see a few of my pieces of art on Cindy Carter.
Brian has his mic off. And
CindyCarterArt.com.
The only has to do in this lifetime is let you share your screen.
Yeah, it won't. I keep hitting it. Oh, now it is. Now it is. Now
yeah, he's got it. He knows how to do it.
Now it is. Okay.
Oh boy, look at all those.
Can you bring them all up big?
Yeah. So there's one. I was just working on a big painting of her. These are, extraterrestrials I feel like I've met somewhere.
Cindy, can you click on them and bring them up bigger and then go through them one at a time?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see. Is that big enough?
No. Well,
it doesn't seem.
Are you not seeing it?
We're seeing them, but they're kind of small.
No, I've got one big one right up, and I don't know that why you're not seeing it.
I don't know.
If I click on one, it's taking over.
I know the reason why. What you need to do is click one that's big on your screen, then get out of the share screen and go back to it, and then you open up on the big one.
Oh, I know. I need to open my desktop. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Share. Sorry. All right. Open on the desktop now.
There you go.
Oh wow.
So let's see. So that's one of my Sasquatches there. Let's see if I can. How I get to that folder.
That one's amazing.
All right. So that's called The Alchemist.
Wow, that's amazing.
There's a deer going into a UFO.
Wow.
There's a bear.
You did a whole bunch of bears in the last few months, right?
Yep. There's a guy from Alpha Centauri. There's a guy who's a dragon master from another place. There's a fierce angel. And there's the king of air. And there is a SASQUATCH.
Oh, wow. I love that.
And then that's an old painting of a resplendent Quetzal. And there's a Sasquatch portal.
My goodness.
And there's a wolf. And here's a wolf.
So,
And there's a dog man. And here's a stag.
how much? How much?
How much? How much? I can do any of these as prints. So between $60 and $100 for a print.
Wow, that's a good price.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's what I've got. So I'll stop the screen there.
No,
But-
no.
What? You wanted to see more?
Hungry, I'm hungry.
Let's see. Trying to think if there's any more on here. These are kind of old. I've
I
got
like the
newer
frog.
ones.
Let's look at that frog.
Oh yeah, it's gone now, but yeah. So I did a whole mandala series, and then I did this cosmic pool series, and then I've been starting some bigger ones, like 4-foot ones, and I'll show you the 4-foot one I just finished and sold, and it's my favorite one now. This one,
Oh man.
yeah. So I sold that to a lady. It's a 4-foot by 4-foot, and she's coming to pick it up here in a couple weeks, I think.
Wow.
So I'm going to make prints of that. I'm going to do prints of that one
One of your
too.
better ones for sure.
When
Yeah.
Sue and I get our home, I'm going to be buying one or two for sure.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I love them.
So that's what I enjoy doing.
See your heart and soul right in them. They're gorgeous.
So they started. I used to be a graphic artist back in the day, and that was before computers. So we were doing paste up and rapidographs and stuff, and then I got into other businesses, and I just kind of kept freelance art as a side job always, and did graphic design. And then when I went into the spiritual thing, and I had been compromised there in British Columbia by the 3-letter agencies, I had a lot of healing to do. And so I just sat down, and I had just a few things to work with, and I just started painting, and it was like all the beings were from the cosmic pools. They were from an area that was so high vibrational that I felt like I was to go in the water with them to heal. So each animal would come, and I would paint them in this pool. So I did like animal after animal after animal. And after about maybe 6 months, I felt like I could move my body and change my life a little.
Yeah. Cindy, if somebody came to you and asked you, what would you suggest? How would I introduce myself to the Sasquatch people? What would you say to them?
Oh gosh, my advice is really kind of everyday-ish. So this is how I met any deity. Like when I was new to this, I didn't even, because I'd never like prayed. I didn't do any of that. Like I didn't know how to do it. So like, how do you talk to a deity? Like, I'm so lowly. How do you talk to a deity so if I have vibration? It's like a whole thing. I didn't know. So my friend told me, just have tea. What? Invite them for tea. Do you have tea every day? I said, yep. Sit down and have tea every day. That's your designated time. It's repetitive. It's the intention. So it's going to happen each day. You sit down, you pour the tea for yourself, and if you need to go to that route, pour tea for them. Sit there and have a conversation. We're not praying to the deities. We're having conversations. We're getting to know the neighbor. So the neighbor's etheric. So let's get to know them etherically first. Start having tea with the Sasquatch. Not a Sasquatch, but the Sasquatch. Start telling them that you're allowing them into your life. Start explaining to them that you accept their presence and that you mean them no harm, that kind of thing. And if you have a repetitive thing that you can do, like if it's walk in the woods, then speak that as you're walking. If you take a shower in the night or the morning, as the water's hitting you, with the waters of purification, may my communication with Sasquatch become grander and grander. Connect with nature to connect with them. But it's just like, you have to do it. You have to like do something. You got to be conscious. And so I can, if I haven't had a communication in a while, and I'm like, I miss them. And, we all do. Like, where'd they go? Like, because you don't need anything right now. They don't need you. You don't need them. Just like your neighbors. They don't freaking need you all the time. And they don't want you knocking on the door every day, asking for some, cup of this or cup of that. Be respectful. So it's like, get to know them in a way where it's like you honor and respect their consciousness. And then I will like start talking up. I'll start having more conscious talk, more intentional talk with myself. And oftentimes that's driving. For some reason, I really am in a zone when I drive. And so I can communicate then. And that's when I really communicate. It's when I'm driving.
That's true. I've had them communicating with me a number of really deep thoughts and thought placement and things going through my head that I knew that they were helping me with and driving.
Yeah. And then wait till your phone starts blowing up when that happens. Because it's amazing. They can manipulate weather, sound, radio, TV, just like whatever. So it can heighten to the point where they communicate and your phone might blow up with a song repeated over and over that has no app to it.
Yeah.
Just weird stuff.
Yeah.
It's fun. Fun stuff.
Absolutely. So, I learned very early on. I was told, like people go and, want to go and find out about Sasquatch people and whatever, but really when you really get the true connection with them, you find out that what you're really there for is to learn about yourself. And that's really what all these great teachers are doing, right? I mean, they don't really care about, they have a sense of humor and they're funny and they'll play with you and stuff like that. But basically they're not there to entertain you or to amuse you or whatever. They're there if you're connected with them. They're there to advance you along in a gentle, non-intrusive way, kind of like breadcrumb trail, right, and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
into deeper and deeper understandings of all kinds of things. It just depends on what information your little cellular body is looking to like get rid of and add to. And you may not know what that information is. I didn't know I needed geometry, science, epigenetics. Obviously I did. To understand this, I needed that.
Yeah. So what have you asked the Sasquatch people who they are and where they're from and what their origins are? Do you know anything about that?
This is where when the energy comes that's communicating with me on that level, I'm in a state of no mind. I am fully in receivement of what's happening, and there is zero thought in my head, zero questions.
Right.
And this is just me. I don't know why, but I don't question unless it feels nefarious. I question it. But if it's not nefarious, I don't question because I'm given what I'm supposed to, and I have to figure out the rest. So any teachers that have come to me in the last 20 years, I don't question them. I don't quiz them. I don't question them. I don't find out more and more and more and more and more. I take what they give.
Right.
It's different. My mind doesn't create the question. So, it's almost like if you were standing here and you were like visiting a country, and the dignitaries of that country, like the shaman of that country, walked by. You're like, oh my God, I can feel their wisdom. Hey, where are you from? Like I can't make my body go to the place of asking questions in that reverence for some reason. That's why it doesn't feel like I'm talking to the Sasquatch that's throwing rocks. If I was on a property with a Sasquatch family, I might have a different communication. Like I feel like I would have like, yo, what's happening? Kind of communication instead of what kind I have now, which is the feeling reverence for what's happening at that level.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
Well, they have a different relationship with everybody too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love listening to the stories of the people who have. I follow 2 or 3 people on Facebook that just put up their live stuff of stuff that's happening in their backyard right now. I just love that stuff. Like I wish it was happening in my house.
Like what kind of stuff?
There's a guy I watch. I can't even remember his name, but he has Sasquatch in his backyard, and they do a lot of hoot and hollering at him and tree knocks, but they do it like in response to him. So if he does something, they do it back. So they're doing a lot of mimicking of him now, and they like it when he plays music. So when he's in the backyard, he just kind of has a fire going and got the camera on, and you really can't see anything, but you can hear it.
Oh, so they don't mind being recorded then, because they're obviously
no, they do not mind. I've said this in many interviews. The researchers I've been with and been in the field with, so this is my own experience. Sasquatch do not mind audio devices, but they do not want any video devices, and they will smack the phone out of your hand. They'll smack a video camera out of your hand. You can't feel, you're walking with a camera, somebody is, and boom, out of nowhere, it's gone. But the audio devices, if I walk into the woods with an audio device, I can hear wood knocks, screaming, hoots, hollers, some of that, verbiage, and but it be inaudible to my ear. I can only hear it on the recording played back later. They're fully everywhere around me, walking on this trail, and I can't hear a thing. I can feel it. I can sense it. So
what is the difference between them allowing audio and not video?
they are, because they have like command of sonar waves, right? And any type of plasma wave. Audio is almost like it's analog, almost. It's a non-intrusive frequency, but the frequency of video comes in at a frequency that's intrusive to their aura. It's intrusive to the soul, and that goes for humans too. That's why computers and phones and cameras are used in mind control.
Is that why some First Nations people didn't want their pictures taken?
It takes your soul, yes.
And okay. So, but then again, like I've had Ari, my clan leader, and sometimes they will show up in pictures if you're not purposely trying to take them. So what's the difference there?
Well,
because I know Ari showed up. He gave me a gift when he showed up because I asked him to visit me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at that picture, I get all kinds of stuff out of it. So there was a purpose for it. So sometimes it's allowed. And what's the difference?
The difference is you didn't command it. You didn't ask for it. It was gifted. That's different. And it's like they can, I have been witness of a lot of different researchers who've shown me pictures they've taken, and then later on the image changes to something else. It was not there before. They can manipulate that too.
Mm-hmm.
But I really feel that, if you were walking on a trail, somebody was standing on a rock, audio device out. Do you feel intrusive with that? Does that feel invasive to you? No. somebody's videotaping you on a trail, what does that feel like to you?
Yeah.
What does it feel like to you? This is what I'm talking about. It's not the technology. What does it feel like? A complete invasion. So this is where, we're not going to invade the auric field.
Yep. That makes perfect sense. It's just a matter of respect, right?
That's what it all comes down to. It, I think. It's what it feels like. It all comes down to.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
respect.
So I'm going to put up I'll put up some of your pictures when we do the final video, and I'll give you some information if anyone wants to buy any of your art. I know I do. When I get my place, I want to get a couple prints for sure.
That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. I just love, I really do, sincerely, because, I'm a fairly creative person. I really love it. I think
Thank you very much.
really,
It's
really nice.
one thing I just love to do. I can just zone out for hours doing art.
Yeah. Well, Cindy, you told us that you couldn't go over 2 hours. We're already 2:40.
I know, and look at
I
what
told you that the time goes fast and whatever. But I do also want to respect you. I also want to respect you and not try to trick you into going too long. So, did you want to say anything to wrap up? Any kind of?
No, I mean, I think we really hit all the things, and I really enjoyed this conversation. I wanted you to know, because we really did touch on a lot of the really deep parts of this Sasquatch connection, and we're not, it's not all about the woo, and it's not all about the sticks. It's about your connection with this life force, and I appreciate you two having the view of it that you do, because it makes it easy to talk about. And I'm trying to find a few more avenues to talk this way about compassionate Sasquatch in avenues that won't be condemning of it, because I think we're getting to that point where I can, and other people can, talk about that more readily without being attacked. But I still have to tread really lightly, me. Personally, I don't know about other people, but I still have to tread lightly. So,
yeah. Well, thanks for
There's more to talk about. That maybe we'll save it for another time. But I was listening to the audio of Sasquatch Message to Humanity, and in like the first 13 or 14 chapters, which are just really a page long, the Sasquatch were talking about the genocide of Sasquatch, and just I want to put that out there, because it is a reality. It is going on, and people need to know about it. We have those 3-letter agencies, and we have the military, and we have crazy people that are actively seeking to genocide these beings, because they don't want our collective awakening to happen. It's the same people who were killing people for disclosing about flying saucers. Anyway, we'll save that for another time. But I could see that would be some of the reason why you wouldn't want to be too open about everything. Because
there's a lot of things I have to just keep to myself, and it's been proven why I have to keep it to myself. I don't like ending up in an ER like I have before. So
here you go. Well, thank you, Cindy, and
thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Beans, for showing up.
Nice to see you, Michael.
Thanks for our beautiful, wonderful beaners. We have like 65 comments and so many beautiful things. Deborah Klein says, "Aloha, Cindy. Super resonate with you. Keep mind out of the stillness. Difference in the mental level and spiritual." Neil says they love communication with music. So many great comments.
That's great.
Yep.
Got a very active group.
And Brian, could you give a little pitch to your humble YouTube channel?
Yeah,
I know you don't like doing that, because you're such a humble guy. You don't like to put yourself out there.
Well, I've got a YouTube channel. It's called Pork and Beans. Probably why I don't get any subscribers, because people are looking for Sasquatch, and you told me to put pork and beans on there. But anyway, it's called. So I'm going to blame you for,
Well, why don't you
as I
change it
normally do.
to Sasquatch in the Pork and Bean Show.
It's called Pork and Beans, Sasquatch BC, the true story. And I got like, well, maybe 150 or more videos on there, like about 60 pork and bean shows and a bunch of just personal stuff. So not personal stuff, but Sasquatch stuff. Yeah.
But you got the best visuals. You're up there in Wonderland, and you got the best visuals.
Yeah, you do. It's like I love watching your photos and your videos because I can feel like I can go back there. You know, like I feel like I'm there. Your backdrop is so gorgeous.
And I bet you, Cindy, because this is such a special, and it's my area, whatever, so I'm always going to say that. But I bet you that so many different things show up in my pictures, like big, spirit face, and what you must be, and somebody connected like yourself, you must be seeing some amazing things in some of those photos. Like you can just see what a.
I'm not very good at blob squatch. I'm not good at it.
Oh, either am I. But
I can't see anything in any photos. I don't see with my eyes. Like I feel. So
okay, but
yeah.
some of mine, Noah, like it's just a big, huge. I mean, you don't have to put your imagination out there. You can see.
Yeah, some of them I can say are definitely very special. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, well, that's interesting because like it's true. We all have a different. If there's like, let's say there's a box of 30 different gifts that we can all have or whatever. We all have maybe if we all have a different combination of them, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So that's actually quite beautiful, and just the way it is. So thank you so much for coming, and we love you. And will you come back again now that we don't bite and that I'm sure you had a good time, right?
Yeah, I had a good time. I did, and I will come back. I promised. And
okay.
I've just been out of the commission for
I know. I was wondering what happened to you. I thought, did I piss you off or something? You weren't even.
No. I just sometimes I just go into I'm into self-healing, and so when I'm serious about my own healing, I don't need to talk to other people, and that might look rude to some people, but it's just that's what I have to do. So.
Yeah, healing happens from the inside out, and you don't need anything from the outside going back in.
Yeah, trying to get rid of the 0 1s. 0 1.
Okay, no, wait a minute. Now, I know I don't know all the terminology.
Oh, okay.
But you kept saying that. What is 0 1? I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
The matrix is made up of data, and the data is analog data. And it's made up of 0 1 0 1 1 1 0 1, whatever the sequence is. This is what our life is on the matrix.
Oh, okay.
0 1s. So those are all the stories and timelines and quantum.
All that nonsense. Okay.
All the quantum bullshit.
All right. Well, you know what? This was a great show. We did discuss a lot of good things. I even said a couple good things for a change.
I think you did, Brian. I appreciate you coming out of your shell.
Yeah, I'm so shy.
I know.
You brought me right out. Thanks, Cindy.
Yeah.
And thank you, Mr. Beans, for being you and being the world's handsomest man. And
I am so beautiful to me. Can't you see?
Raise your vibration.
I'm everything I ask for. I'm everything I need. I am so
Peace
beautiful
out
to me.
Y'all are crazy.
Oh, did you know that we are actually ascended disasters?
Oh, ascended disasters? I would believe.
Yes, we are. We are the foremost ascended disasters in creation.
Wow. I feel honored.
I know. But I mean, we're humble though. I mean, we accept you. I mean, even though you're just a little minute little gnat, we still love you.
Thanks so much. And it validates my whole being to have you say that.
I mean, to be loved by such
I waited my whole life to hear you say that. Oh my God.
The gift that is pork and beans. The gift.
To be loved by.
It keeps on giving.
That's my gift to you.
That keeps on giving.
That's my gift to you, to be appreciated by such a powerful entity. I know that I just had to do that for you.
All right, you guys, I'm out of here.
All right. Thanks.
Peace out.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Beaners. Bye-bye.
Bye.
My uncle was a clown for Ringling Brothers Circus. And when he died, all his friends went to the funeral in one car.